Hey, there's an usher coming.
Almost in the flesh. Almost in the flesh.
What are you talking about?
Okay, we're streaming on YouTube and we are being recorded.
Okay, I think let's get underway, and if folks join us, that's fine. Welcome to the Council's Law Committee meeting. Tonight, we have members of the Law Committee, Kim Ash McPherson, Eileen McDermott, and myself. Also present from the Council, Nasha Cummings and Ken Zalewski. We have our Corporation Counsel, Rick Morrissey, our Controller, Andrew Petrowski, our Mayor, Patrick Madden, and I think our Deputy Mayor is in the corner. Okay, Monica. Okay, so why don't we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance? And I went and purchased my own flag today. So let's see how I do with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's the first correct rendition of the pledge in over a month.
Well, I'm practicing. Okay, so tonight we're going to be looking at our Corporation Council's budget for 2021. And if you have a copy, it begins on page 46, 47, 48, 49. Jim Gully is calling me. Hold on. Hi, Jim. Oh. Did you get the email from Mara? Okay, all right. Okay, all right, all right. Okay. No, you're not. No, you're good. Yep. Oh, okay. All right, thanks.
I just resent it again.
Right, the issue is not that. He is having issues with his own email. So he's doing his best to resolve that. So, and he's not a member of the committee. So, Rick, would you walk us through giving us a general overview of 2021 versus 2020? Please.
Sure. This is my first time doing this, so if I stumble, I hope you'll be generous in your understanding.
Mine too, Rick. So we're in it together.
I'd like you to turn first to page 47. The 101, 104, and 110 lines. And I'll take them backwards first. 110 is longevity. That's $1,000. That's contractual for Mary Hagee, our title searcher. It's a CSEA benefit. 104, as you can see, is zeroed out. And then 101 is permanent salaries, and you can see that there's approximately an $8,000 increase. So if you would turn to page 49, I'll explain the increase in the salaries. First off, there's an increase in the Corporation Counsel salary. I want you to know I had nothing to do with it. That seems to be contractual pursuant to a non-rep policy that was enacted before I took this job. But I'm grateful for it, so I'm not saying I don't want it. The second line, the 101, is a Deputy Corporation Counsel. That is Matt Foley. There's an increase of $1,000. That's about a 3% increase for him. He has not had, my thinking is that he has not had an increase in his pay since 2013 or thereabouts, and it's well-deserved. Really, it's very modest and well-deserved. The second one is an increase of $1,000 for my other long-term Deputy Corporation Counsel. That's Dan Vincelette. Dan Vincelette performs invaluable service for the city in our in-rems and cert matters, all our property tax foreclosures and things like that. He is an expert in the field. If we lost him, I don't know what we'd do without him. This is, again, a very modest increase of just $1,000. It amounts to something like a 4% increase, I think, but he's worth every penny. The other line, the next 101 line, is for another deputy corporation counsel. That'll be the first assistant, which is the position I formerly encumbered when I was not corporation counsel. That increase in salary is $1,500 from the current. However, you can see that the current salary is listed as 0. That's because no one has encumbered that position since I took this job on about May 15th. So you've had quite a bit of savings there. And this is not really a competitive salary, but with our health benefit, it works for some people. I've hired a woman by the name of Elena Finnan. She's a fine lawyer. She has some experience in municipal law, and I intend for her to encumber this position and be the first assistant. The other salary increases, the private secretary to the corporation counsel, that's pursuant to the non-rep policy. And the title searcher is that raise is pursuant to the CSEA contract. So if you turn back to page 47 again, please. I think there are no other changes until you get down to line 409, consultant services. Last year it was budgeted at $280,000. This year it's budgeted at $300,000. That increase is because I have essentially brought back under the law department the budget for a couple of councils that somehow had gotten budgeted over to planning. I am the chief legal officer of the city. All councils of the city report to me, and they should come under my budget. That's my feeling. So the increase of $20,000 is approximately the amount we pay Andy Brick every year for representing, for sitting in at the planning board and representing them in their litigations. So it's not an actual increase. It's money coming from one part of the budget back to my budget.
Just to note on page 151, A8021.409 was $20,000. It is not funded in 2021. So it's just moving from 8021.409 to 1420.409, and that's the increase.
Okay, so why have I lost my space here? 280,000, 300,000. Okay.
Bond and note.
Bond and note is it mainly comes under the bailiwick of the Department of Finance, which Andy heads up. It's mainly for Bond, Shenick, and King, who are our bond counsel, and they help us all year long with our RANs and our bans and everything else. Once again, it is an area of extreme expertise, and that's what that line represents. The litigation expenses, that's just an increase of $5,000. Court costs are going up. Deposition costs are going up. Stenos costs are going up. We have to pay them, and we have to be able to litigate our cases. Once again, I think it's a very modest and reasonable increase. The next line is another line for consultant services, similar to the increase in the other consultant line. This represents the monies that we will be paying to through a zombie grant to Whiteman Osterman for their services in helping us go after more, recalcitrant mortgagees and people who own institutions that own property and then don't take care of it and don't sell it and don't do anything with it. So that money, I think, is actually accounted for as income somewhere. And the training expense of $2,500. I don't know what that's.
Same as last year.
It's what?
Same as last year.
Same as last year. Yes. And So really, I haven't done much in terms of attempting to change the shape of the department this year, mainly because of COVID, also because I'm new. I realize that people are sometimes, have trouble accepting the consultant line, but, and maybe next year when I do my budget, I might, the only way to reduce that line is to bring more house staff on board. Utica has 7 assistant corporation counsels, Albany has 7, no other municipality that I found of our size is staffed as lightly as ours. So that's why we have to spend so much money outside. And I didn't start that. I don't know when that started, but I have some prior experience with another administration where we were much more adequately staffed. So that's it. What are your questions?
Chair,
Yes. Councilman Gully.
I know I'm not a committee member. If you don't mind, may I ask a question?
Could we just entertain the committee first, and then we'll go to you, Jim? Is that okay?
That's perfect.
I see Council Member Ash McPherson with her hand waving at me.
Thank you, Rick. Can you tell me, you just said on page 47, the consultant services, line 409, you said that's for zombie properties?
Yes, that's through the zombie. We have a zombie grant, and that's through the second phase, I believe, of the zombie grant.
So the resolution that we have tonight, the resolution 105, to accept a grant of $225,000, is this going towards this as well, or?
Yes, it goes through the whole program. It funds the code officer. I'm not sure whether the particular amount of this is funded through it, but this is funded through the entire zombie grant. This is not, the taxpayers don't fund this directly.
Correct. So account 409113 is entirely offset by zombie grant revenue. It is tied to the resolution on the finance and special meeting agendas this evening.
The 105.
Yeah.
So the $225,000 on that resolution tonight, is that going to increase this? Is it going to change the line? Is it?
It depends on if there's a specific budget for different expenses, is my understanding, in the grant and the zombie grant itself. It depends on if there's monies left over at the end of 2020. We would amend the budget in 2021 to add more monies for this purpose. It's similar to police grants that we approximate the budgets when we do the proposed budget and then amend them later on in the subsequent fiscal year, depending on how much monies are remaining.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back to the other ones. Go ahead.
Any other questions from the committee? Councilman Gully, you're up.
Rick, thank you for your time tonight. I just have a short question. You mentioned that we could do more with in-house staff. Can you, and I don't expect you to be exact, but my thought is, can you just give us an idea if you had the proper staffing that you think you need in there, comparatively to the $300,000 that we're spending on outside consultants? Could you give an idea of what you think could be eliminated or transferred to in-house work, and how much we might save for the money we would have to pay for the people we would have to hire?
I haven't done a proper analysis of that. However, I would think we would save approximately 2/3 of that, at least. Okay? I can't say the whole thing because there are situations that arise when we have conflicts of interest and we have to retain outside counsel. There are also situations that arise where there's expertise involved that we may not have. For example, the bond counsel is a separate line in this budget here, but I mean, they're a perfect example in terms of drafting those things is something that they have perfected in their bond department. They do it for many, many municipalities. So I think I would if as I desire, I propose a different budget and the mayor accepts it next year, I will undertake such an analysis and try to offer you some really concrete numbers in terms of savings. Is that okay? Do I answer your question?
Well, you did as good as you can at this point.
Okay, thanks.
We'll need to get more specific as we get closer to get you to your goal, but it's just nice to know what you're thinking. Hey, 2/3 is more than what I thought. I thought you were going to say half. So you know what? I'm honored by your thinking, and just keep going in that direction.
Okay.
Other questions? Councilmember Cummings?
So first on the consultant services, first I'll mention, to the extent any of that work happens during the year next year, I would certainly consider budget amendments to add a position mid-year if that makes sense. Can be offset by a reduction. That being said, just wanted to get a clear answer. It sounded like what you're saying is most of what the consultant services lines is more about bandwidth than about particular expertise. Obviously, here and there, a issue comes up so I mean, for example, even the zombie property stuff, is that something that could theoretically be brought in-house in the future? And then how much of that is it?
I would say that zombie property is something that theoretically could, because I think it's a limited area where an expertise could be developed fairly quickly. I do not think that bond counsel could. Okay, I think that's something that we're always going to farm out.
And then the rest of that consultant service, you're saying probably about 2/3 of that is more based on bandwidth than particular expertise.
You know, I'm not sure what you mean by your expression there, bandwidth and expertise.
More that we don't have the staff to handle it, rather than that we couldn't. It's not, a 20,000.
I would say you're correct. It's more that we don't have the staff to handle it. I mean, it is nice to consult Goldberg Segala about particular labor questions from time to time, but we could develop more in-house expertise. We could develop more, we could litigate more of our own personal injury or federal cases, but we simply don't have enough staff or enough time to do a proper job.
And you said you had chosen someone to fill that vacancy. Can you talk a little bit about the analysis that was done in terms of, is that a person that will bring new and different expertise from what the current staff has, or more supplement the bulk of the kind of work you already do?
She's bringing a lot of expertise that I had, maybe not as much as I had, but municipal law in itself is a broad field with a lot of nuances and a lot of particulars and a lot of technical defenses. So I think she's already experienced and eminently trainable.
Great. So it'll free up a lot of your time, and that's great.
And hopefully, I think it'll be a really good match with the city.
And then I did notice, just in terms of prior year encumbrances, both on the consultant services and litigation expenses, are way off budget. Those obviously vary case by case. I assume we should consider that going forward, that this 300,000 and this 75 could be anywhere up or down, just depending on the cases we undertake next year.
It could be. I mean, in 2020, you had the arbitration for UFA. Different things come up. Now we've gotten some new lawsuits, which I think we'll discuss in executive session sometime. And you're right. It depends on the cases. It depends on the projects that have to be undertaken. It's not really different than any other department. Sometimes you have to replace the transmission mains in the water department, and many years you don't.
Understood. All good. Thank you.
The questions?
Oh, sorry, I did have one other question on the zombie property thing. I guess this is only somewhat related, but I know that there have been some significant settlements under that program. I'm wondering, A, where is that revenue recognized? Is it budgeted for? And then B, is there any discussion of putting that in a particular account or a particular direction to continue enhancement of those enforcement actions?
All revenue that the Corporation Council collects gets returned to finance. And so Andy could answer that question.
There is no money budgeted in the 2021 budget for zombie property settlements. That my opinion on that is that's a revenue that is really unknown and very much a one-time revenue. We have had conversations, Steve, myself, the deputy mayor, and the mayor, as to what to use those funds for as things get settled. There has not been a final determination about that yet. As we progress, there would be some sort of budget amendment involved to be approved by the city council once the determination is made on that.
I'll just voice my support for anything we can do to use those funds to help remedy the harms that these vacant properties do in our neighborhoods through either continued enforcement actions, code enforcement, and other, or through other neighborhood improvement, streetscape, trees, etc., that help enhance those neighborhoods again.
Noted.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ash McPherson, do you have something to ask?
I do, thank you. Rich, I'm just curious as to one of your comments. You said that compared your office size-wise to Albany, which has over 100,000 residents, and Schenectady, I think, is over 75,000. I don't know how many they have in their law department. How many would you think that you would need in your law department, in your department, with the city of 50,000?
Well, I can tell you what we had before, back in 2000 or thereabouts. We had 4 part-time deputy corporation counsels and 2 full-time, sort of fresh out of law school. I think we had 1.5 corporate secretaries who acted as paralegals. Albany's, I don't mean to compare apples to oranges. Albany does have twice the population of Troy, but all its deputy corporation counsels are full-time. So they have 7 full-time in addition to the corporation counsel. The other jurisdiction I mentioned was Utica, and I just looked at their masthead recently, or their budget online or something. They have 8. So we're not overstaffed here, and I would.
No, I'm not saying that
I don't want to be overstaffed either, but I'm thinking along the lines of well, it depends on how many full-time and how many part-time positions could be created, and I haven't done a really good analysis yet.
No, I'm not saying you're overstaffed. I'm just saying you compared it, and I was looking at it, and back in 2000, we had more than 50,000 people in the city of Troy. And that's what I was just wondering, what we're down in tax base, and I'm just wondering what you would consider. That's all. I was just trying to figure that out. Thank you.
Okay.
And every person in Troy has their own attorney.
I heard that. I heard that.
And
Who said it though?
It's not a one-for-one comparison either, in the sense that obviously the tax base is dependent upon the population, but the litigation sometimes is not.
Okay, any other questions?
Chair.
Councilman Gully?
Rick, when you're looking to grow your staff, Will you have any opportunity to look at possibly like an internship or apprenticeship where we can get somebody through a program to come in and do the work hours? And I'm sure that I'm not really sure actually, but I'm just going to say this. I think that if the qualifications of those jobs meet the scholastic and educational piece of their degree, that I think the state or Fed might cover that pay. And I don't know how much I know about that. I'm just throwing it out because I've had a couple conversations with people. But would we ever consider bringing our staff on, growing them right from the root through an internship or apprenticeship programs?
I would consider it. We have a law school locally, and a lot of law students are eager for some kind of employment. Most of them like to get paid, though. So, that is another consideration. And you also have to cover them with your workers' comp policy. But I'm open to that. If you have more information, I would gladly listen to it.
I really don't, but I know Google has everything, so we can find anything we need out there.
Okay. That's where I look a lot, too.
Any other questions from council members? Rick, do you have any closing remarks?
Just, I hate to be redundant, but I think it's a reasonable request. I think it will enable the department to run as smoothly as it has been, which is not always that smooth, but, and we'll get through this year and see where we are next year.
Thank you. I think that wraps up the agenda for the Law Committee, if I understand correctly, and we move into the capital program. Oh, Council President, you're on mute.
Hello, I just wanted to say I'll catch up with you regarding law, okay?
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn the Law Committee.
I make a motion.
And okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Law Committee is officially adjourned. Thank you all.
Okay, we'll go into the capital plan and I'll pass it over to Andy if you want to walk us through some of the major proposals. I know the golf course 5-year plan is in again this year. We'll go over that obviously in recreation, but if you'd like to just breeze us through this, that'd be great.
Okay, the deputy mayor and I actually put together a presentation, so. All right. So just to kind of get an overview of this, the thinking in having a budget hearing on the capital plan itself is that in my time since being here at the city since 2013, there's never been a specific budget hearing about the capital plan as a whole. It's been discussed at various budget hearings itself. But I thought it may be beneficial to have a separate hearing, not on the night of other meetings, not so we didn't add a night, to have a discussion about what is in the capital plan itself in the proposed budget. I think too what it will allow for is questions to be asked this evening that we can then address if it's in detail. For example, if there's questions or when there's questions about the golf capital plan, if we are unable to answer them here, we can go back and have the answers ready for the budget hearing on Tuesday evening. So that's the kind of the premise of this. I do want to note, and I apologize, that is a typo. There is no vehicles in the 2021 capital plan to be purchased, and there's two purposes for that. The first is the financial component. We're going to take a year to really reset. We have a significant number of bond anticipation notes currently outstanding that pertain to vehicles. So it will allow for a year to make paydowns on those, convert those that have a long PPU to serial bond potentially, and just clean up, for lack of better words, our debt portfolio itself when it comes to vehicles. There is an operational purpose to it as well that I will let the deputy mayor address with the leasing.
Yeah, so as we've talked about before, I think we covered in the general budget overview, is that we're actually looking, as Andy said, to take a pause for financial purposes, but also for operational purposes. We want to be able to take the year and actually do a collective look at all of our fleet, prepare a fleet management program, and then be able to start a capital plan based on essentially a lease-to-own program, most likely, so that we are better able to manage the fleet, hopefully have lower emissions, have better efficiency, fuel efficiency, better maintenance programs, and be able to accommodate those. We went into the conversation the other day about potentially even looking at third-party arrangements for maintenance and stuff like that to allow our other garages be able to do the heavy-duty work of which they're trained. In addition, what that will also allow us to do is to hopefully dovetail into the FRB money that we have. We have, I believe it's $100,000 set aside to be able to walk into that kind of arrangement, to be able to exhibit future savings for the city. We'll obviously have to do a summary of that for them, a reintroduction of it to them, but it's anticipated that we'll be able to use that $100,000 to help us get to that point where we can get off into an RFP for services so that we can start the process.
So what we're going to do now is go through each of the individual projects that are laid out in the general fund and garbage fund capital plans. We did not include DPUs. Chris Whalen went through them on the hearing on this past Tuesday evening. So the first one is on page 263. It's $5.9 million for facility upgrades and improvements for DPW. It is a phase 3 of the Siemens project. The total cost is $5.9 million. The description of the projects, the Deputy Mayor will go through. I do just want to note one thing. The prior Siemens project was financed through Siemens. That is not an option in this phase because of the third and fourth items that are on the list. We have consulted with bond counsel, and they are of the opinion that we must finance this through local bond resolutions.
All right, and then just to go through what you see up on your screen, we have the street lights and traffic lights. So the street lights, these are the approximately 108, 106, over 100 street lights that you have been asking us about through the CDBG program. Because we did not include them in the purchase of the National Grid, which is why we did not want to do that, because it would have skewed our purchase price with National Grid. This funding will actually purchase those lights and get those installed. Traffic lights, we're actually looking to work on various, multitude of intersections throughout the city, switching from what I call Tinkerbell sitting in the box, switching out the lights, to actually LED and a full-scale traffic light system for a large chunk of our traffic lights throughout the city. I know you all know of the challenges we have on those fixtures. Some of them are really, really incredibly old. I know Bill Wangler has great challenges with some of them, with their poles and with their strings and even with the lights themselves. So this will be a good renovation to the city, also helping us with the efficiency of our utility costs. The salt shed, if any of you have driven over to the DPW garage, and on the back side facing Troy Central Little League, you'll see our salt shed, one of our salt sheds. It is actually eating the back wall of the garage. So this is a very big project for us, an important project for us, because we need to get that salt shed redone. We have a location. We are looking at doing a DOT-approved salt shed, something that's already spec'd out there that we can piggyback off of, and then be able to build that away from the current structure so that we can open it up, assess it. We think the bones of the building that it sits up against right now are fine. We just need to do an upgrade, which will lead us into that next phase. And then we also In addition to this, and this will be something separate later on down the road, you're all familiar with the Rensselaer County Shared Services Initiative? I'm hoping, yes, I hope. Anyway, so as part of the Rensselaer County Shared Service Initiative for implementation for 2022, one of the items that I had brought up is potentially looking at a shared salt shed with adjacent municipalities. So if you think of like Scotticoke and some of the smaller towns out on the northern end of the section of the city, the west-eastern side of the city, being able to actually see if there's locations where we can build a communal salt shed, so to speak, to be able to share with other municipalities. So that's something above and beyond, but just so you know that we are already in the planning stages for hopefully something down the road to augment what we have right now, because we will have to eliminate the E-Lot building. The LDC is renting the E-Lot building to National Grid for when they do the remediation at the King Fuel site. So we'll have to vacate that by next summer. The DPW facade and roof restoration, this is the, when you pull, yeah.
You hold on one sec. I want to hit each one if I have questions. I did have a question on the streetlights and traffic lights. So
sure.
That's part of the LED program that we've been under. Didn't we already bond for Siemens? I know this is a phase 3. Maybe at some point you could give us a breakdown of the prior bonds and where they are with the LED.
So I think I understand what you just asked. Okay. So let me see if so the 108 streetlights that are a part of this phase 3 are the CDBG lighting, the South Troy, the Lansingburg lighting, the actual streetlights, the poles that we put up. It's purchasing those and installing them, because we did not do that. We did not pay National Grid to do that, because if we would have paid them that, it would have skewed our purchase price. So those streetlights are not in our account, and so we are not buying those from National Grid. We'll install them with this phase.
My God, so they're separate.
Yes. Do you want me to move on?
Yes.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead, Councilmember Pearson.
I'm trying to get back to the, so the streetlights and the poles are still going to be owned by National Grid, and they're going to maintain them? Is that what I just heard? Okay.
Nope. So we own the streetlights. Any metal pole in the city will own. Wooden poles that have power on them with a lamp that comes out or off of that will be owned. The pole is owned by National Grid. The light fixture is owned by the city, and then we actually have what's called a license agreement, essentially, with National Grid for that. And it's like peanuts compared. I mean, it's a small dollar amount, and it's included in the pro forma that you all received 2 years ago when we did, or last year when we did the bonding. That cost of that lease, so to speak, to put our light on the National Grid pole is included in that pro forma. So it's already included in the total dollar. So we'll own metal poles. There is a lot of work that goes into the backside of this that most people just don't understand about disconnecting and metering and all that other kind of stuff. That's really big details. But streetlights, we will, so the over 4,000 streetlights in the city, they will be our responsibility.
So that's including so we're going to be responsible for those light on the wooden poles.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And the maintenance cost in that pro forma that you all received last year, the maintenance portion of that, there's a 5-year maintenance plan in that plan as well too. So they've already factored in our long-term financial outlook on the savings of that and been able to incorporate the maintenance cost and those things in that, still within that savings.
I'm jumping the gun a little bit here. When do you think the LEDs will be switched out?
Okay, so just to give an update again, so I'll give you an update on where we are right now. So predominantly all of the energy efficiency improvements, that was the first part of the bonding that Andy brought to us. So the energy efficiency improvements through all the facilities are probably about, I would say, 90% finished. There's some bigger work like generators and some rooftop units and stuff like that that are like finishing up. So that work is all completely done. We have received the National Grid sale contract as well as the license agreement information. They're comparing the two audits. We're off by several handfuls of streetlights at this moment in time, so we're just trying to finalize the audit. So the the contract is in review with the mayor and Rick and myself, as well as Siemens. And then we anticipate that hopefully by the beginning of November, that will go back to National Grid. It'll go into them for their final review. And then from their final review, it'll go to PSC. And then PSC will approve it, and then it'll come back to us. So we anticipate that maybe somewhere around April, we should have approval. That's our hope, based on everybody's timeline, and there are allotted times and what they've been doing recently. And then we would hopefully by July have everything switched out. It takes about 3 to 4 months to switch every light out in the city to make it from where it's at now to LED.
Thank you.
And just overall, Andy, I know on page in the capital plan 263, we have 5.9 facilities upgrades and improvements. Is there a reason that that was not broken out in the actual capital plan? Because I take it this is the 5.9 that we're talking about in the proposed budget, correct?
So it wasn't split out by the 4 items on this graph or this chart, mainly because they all relate to DPW, or streetlights fall under traffic, salt shed, facade, DPW building. We group it more by committee, I'll say. So it all falls under OGS or DPW. So it's all categorized into one.
And also when we bond for vehicles and equipment, we have to itemize those out because they can only specifically buy those things. So that's why our capital plan usually has the really extreme detail when it comes to the vehicle stuff, rather than like when we say parks or something like that. So it's because of the way that the bond resolutions and bond paperwork are written as well too.
That's a good. So the more broad you write a bond resolution, the much more flexibility and benefit it is to the city.
So are you going to request, as I take it, if the proposed budget goes through, are we going to be asked to bond for 5.9 for all this? And I know we haven't talked about the other 2 yet.
Yeah, so it would be on one bond resolution for 5.9 million. A lot of, and the deputy mayor will get to the next 2. The salt shed, as was just stated a few minutes ago, it's corroded from the salt. The DPW building, what's being replaced is in dire need of being replaced. The benefit of doing this through Siemens is that we are using the savings from phase 2. So if I back up, phase 1 is the energy improvements that are being done now. Phase 2, what's now being defined as phase 2, is the conversion of the streetlights, the purchase and the conversion of the streetlights to LED. That is the savings to the city. And then now we're bringing phase 3. The $5.9 million cost of this project, plus associated interest costs, will be folded into the savings from phase 2, and there will still be savings from the streetlights.
And they're guaranteed savings. By rolling it through Siemens, they're guaranteed savings. So even after all 3 phases, so you're talking about the energy efficiency improvements from phase 1, the purchase and replacement of the LEDs on phase 2, and then these additional general services improvements in phase 3, we will still have accumulated savings from just the purchase of the streetlights and the lack of facility charges and the energy improvement savings that we see across the city to be able to absorb all 3 payments, all 3 projects within the savings of the project itself. So we still are, when you always hear that term, like for NYSERDA and energy efficiency, it's got to be a +1. So whatever the cost of your project needs to be underneath your savings to the degree of what they call +1, so that you always are able to pay for your project within your original budget, so to speak. So we still have a cumulative savings of $8 to $9 million over the term of this project as well too. So it's not like we're, having a savings of like $100,000 over 20 years. We're still seeing extreme savings, even with the accumulation of these projects. So if I can go back into the last two, and then you can open up, or at least, so the last two. So the DPW facade and the roof restoration is a direct correlation to the salt shed, as well as just being an old facility. The roof is in dire need of replacement, dire need. Sean Kiley's shed and his workshop area is just bad. And then the roof, obviously, from all the leaking and everything, needs to be done. And then the facade is also that corrosion from the salt on the backside as well. The new DPW building is a result of, if everybody remembers, on 7th Avenue, there was that house that we foreclosed on, that we took down in the demolition. Right next to that is the traffic building. It's an old Verizon building. The roof of that is completely shot, and there is significant issues within the building environmentally that we need to actually get them out sooner than later. So we are doing temporary housing for them, so to speak. We're finding them a trailer to be able to go into and then move their equipment out of there. And then this new DPW building will include the demolition of that building. We are talking with Aaron. Aaron feels that we can potentially use the existing pad. He thinks that it's structurally pretty sound. It is an old Verizon building, so I'm sure that's good. It's a I think Verizon switch building, right? And then be able to expand off of that to be able to add the additional space that they need as a department, and also bring Sean Kiley's workshop into a good facility. So that is it's a new building similar to what they did with the garage several years ago, I think under Mark's term, maybe Mayor Patterson's term, or maybe Harry's term. I'm not sure. They renovated the DPW garage. And then we built in a contingency. The contingency will, automatically, if it doesn't get spent, it doesn't get spent, but it does give us a little bit of leeway, because pricing between, several months ago when we priced all this out to when we actually get into construction obviously can fluctuate. So that is the phase, that is the $5.9 million for the DPW facilities, all integrally needed. Fire department and police department, as much as we love them and support them, they've gotten a tremendous share of the facility improvements over the years. I think, these guys really, really need to have good workspace, and we need to make sure that we maintain these so that we don't get into the same situation right now.
I get it. It's a lot, though. And speaking of the police and fire, where is the firehouse, the plan going with that? I know, Mayor, I believe that was moving forward earlier in the year, maybe?
It was. It more or less got derailed by COVID. We're revisiting the bids now on the proposals to see if they're still relevant. We intend to move it forward, but we don't, at this point in time, have specific numbers or a plan for a specific building.
We don't anticipate that it would be constructed in this next coming year.
Oh, no.
Right.
So again, just to reiterate, the savings from the purchase of the streetlight and the subsequent switch to LED, the cost of projects 1, 2, and 3 phase will be incorporated into the savings of the overall structure. So that's the whole process of a peak performance agreement when you work with these, is to be able to take the overall savings that you generate over a 20-year period, be able to capitalize on that, and be able to fund your projects through that and still experience savings down the path.
Yeah, I understand. I'm thinking, obviously, you mentioned the salt shed earlier, and I know a number of municipalities, who do share services with salt sheds. Is there a potential maybe that we might not have to bond and maybe we could actually partner with one of the outer outer towns or the county to, use their salt shed instead of building one?
As I mentioned earlier, we are working with the Rensselaer County Shared Services Initiative with the LaBarge Group, as well as Jim Gordon and all the other municipalities on that team and that committee. We are planning right now for 2021 planning with a 2022 execution, and that will also result in the savings initiatives through Department of State as well. The challenge we have is that we need to vacate said salt shed that we have in the southern tier down at the King Fuel site by May, because the LDC is leasing it to the National Grid. And also, yes to all of that, Carmela, or Council President, yes to all of that, because we still would be able to have a facility in the south, a facility in the north. We are 7 miles long. It certainly would create a more efficiency, and that's where I actually see a really good opportunity to share with our municipalities adjacent to us. However, the salt shed where it is right now is literally corroding a building, creating an unsafe atmosphere, and needs to be fixed by next summer.
Okay, what I'm saying is we shut down the salt shed and potentially use one of the, southern towns, like say, or even the city of Rensselaer or North Greenbush. I mean, is that a potential? I'm just looking to try to get that 5.9 down. It's a chunk of money.
I understand that, but the savings are realized through the project, and you're going to be able to pay for these projects through your savings with the project. So yes, it could be a potential. However, I guess it would be an efficiency. There would be fuel. If you look at the fuel efficiency of driving to Rensselaer to go get salt for every one of our trucks that needs to be filled up to salt on a day that, we have a 6-foot storm or even a 6-inch storm. I mean, sure, we can do anything you want. But again, I don't think that it's the most efficient and most management savvy thing to send your team out to another municipality 10 miles away to go get your salt. I do think it makes a lot of sense to do a shared service in adjacent borders, on common borders, absolutely. Also being able to make it more efficient so that trucks don't have to drive to the Alamo or down to South Troy or from Lansingburg down to the North Central to go get salt. They'll be able to go right in their own communities and be able to salt more efficiently and quicker. But, I mean, again, this is a capital plan that's been laid out to you. If you feel like you need to amend it to eliminate the salt shed, that's your prerogative.
We'll talk about it. Regarding the DPW, do you have a timeline in terms of, the engineering, design, et cetera? Do you have backup for these so for us?
Yep, when it's approved on November 24th, we will immediately start doing in-house engineering with Aaron, and then look to probably go out to bid as early as February so we can get started.
Council President?
Other council members?
Yeah, Council President?
Yes, council member.
Are you able to hear me?
Yep.
Okay. A couple things. Let's see. First, on the street lights. I'm sorry, I was having an issue with my mic earlier. I would have asked it when you were talking about that. So the CDBG lights, the ones that have already been put in, are owned by National Grid, and we're buying them in the first contract. But then there are a number that are in this contract that have not been put in. Is that correct?
So anything that is existing right now is being purchased. If up in the Lansingburg area where we did work, and then areas in South Troy where the poles are not in yet, those are the ones that we will be purchasing through this. Right. But we are not purchasing them through National Grid.
The ones that were already installed, I thought those were installed through CDBG funds, but we didn't maintain ownership of those. National Grid funded part of that, or what?
We only fund a portion of the box on the bottom, and then National Grid comes in with the rest. Or no, we buy the fixture and then National Grid does the rest of the part of it.
Okay, so that's being calculated in the purchase price, I assume.
Yeah.
And then let's see. So with regard to the process for purchasing them and the Public Service Commission, I had heard that there was some back and forth with National Grid where they had come back and they had figured out that they were calculating it wrong, and it sort of went back to phase one with the Public Service Commission. Were we impacted by that? And if so, how much did it increase the purchase price? And does Siemens absorb that, or does that come to us?
No, actually, there was an issue with the formula that went to PSC, sorry, and then turned around, and then also through COVID was an issue as well too. That's why we just recently got all the documents back. And actually, the formula actually decreased our purchase price by a couple $100,000.
Okay, and those savings are realized by us, not Siemens on the project?
They are incorporated into the pro forma, yes. So
Great.
the purchase price.
And you said you're going to send us an updated pro forma on that. Still waiting on that. So.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm just making sure, Shad, actually, so the ones we have right now just show the cumulative cost, and then phase 3 is broken out. So I'm having Shad try to build in all 3 phases so you can see them individually.
Great. That'd be very helpful.
That would be.
And then on the street lights as well, does phase 3 also include any funds for installing additional streetlights, or do either phase where, obviously there are gaps where we're going to find as we install the LEDs that there should be a fixture, but there isn't. Where is that funding? And yeah.
So that funding is not included in this phase. The streetlights that we're specifically talking about are the CDBG ones, because we need to get those up and take out the other ones. You know what I mean? Like get those out of the system. And then once we flip to the LED, and then we can actually measure where we're at with them, and look at because there might even be places where we have to take some out, to be honest with you, depending on, you know what I mean? Because in the past, people thought that they needed another light, and now all of a sudden you take it to a brighter, cleaner light. So once we get them installed and get them flipped, then we can be better assessed. I do know that I did reach out to Shad in regards to something else about reaching out to the LRC, and it's escaping me at the moment what exactly it was. Do you remember?
You anticipated my other question.
Yeah, so I did ask, I can't remember what it was about right now, Anasha, but I'll email you when I remember. I'll ask Shad tomorrow when we talk to him.
I would love to have them involved. Obviously, we want even nice lighting across the city.
They are involved. They are involved. It's just the timing of everything, because of where we're at, we're just not at that point yet. So,
but particularly if we're doing...
We don't own the light.
Right.
So we can't use that.
No, but initially when we talked about this, we talked about it being hard to do any pilots or anything like that, because we're testing of possible light fixtures, etc., out in the field, studies, etc., because the timeline of the project is pretty tight. Obviously now we have at least 6 months before it starts. So if there's anywhere, even if it's a park, an area that's underlit already, where we can start exploring the technology so that we make sure that we're installing the right one when we buy 4,000 of them, I think that would be a benefit to everybody.
No, understood. But again, I can't, until we actually have approval from PSC and close on the streetlights, I can't touch the streetlights, or I got to pay for that. Take for example, Kim, Councilwoman McPherson asked me about switching out a streetlight up on 8th or 9th Avenue to make it brighter. That would have cost us dollars to flip it out, and it would have added to our purchase cost. So we have to make sure. So I get, and I think what we had actually, and it's coming back to me a little bit, I think what I talked to Shad about was these 108 streetlights in the CDBG area. If we were able to get them installed, because they're not a part of the purchase, we can actually get these installed, and then we can do some pilots with those. I think that's actually what I talked to you about. It was that. So these 108 could be part of our testing area. And it'll be in two different sections of the city, in South Troy and in Lansingburg.
That's exactly what we want. That's great. Good to hear.
Yep. I knew I'd come around once I started talking.
Perfect. And then on the salt shed, I don't know whether there's, and well, I'll throw it out. I know that there's been lots of discussion about the salt pile and where it will be, when, etc. But is there any potential for some kind of a shared service agreement or some kind of collaboration with them directly, rather than moving it and then moving it again?
That's the,
Obviously, they have a whole different level of salt storage available on site there.
it's a whole different level of salt storage, and it's not where we actually get our salt. We actually weirdly enough, they did not win the contract this year, so we don't buy our salt from them. Let's leave it at that.
But I mean, if we're talking about $500,000 of infrastructure, there could be some benefit to everybody if there was a way to not have to store that kind of quantities.
The
We're
problem
going to be storing it in our city forever, but
Well, I don't think we can store somebody else's salt on their facility.
DEC, I know, oversees that pretty closely. Do we piggyback the county, Monica?
We go off the state bid.
Okay.
So yeah, effectively off the county bid through the state bid, and they did not win the Rensselaer County bid for 2020.
What about 2021?
I have not seen the results. I don't know if they're out yet for 21 salt bid.
I have not seen them yet.
So do they
It came in really late last year. Huh?
Do they extend through the winter, March, April, I take it?
No, well, sometimes they're yearly contracts, and then what the county will do, I know they've done this with like some of their tree trimming and some of the other stuff that they do, is they automatically extend them. They'll grant them for another year. But last year, it was a new bid last year, I believe, and it came in really late, like November, we got notification. So generally, we get notified by the county if there is an extension to that. So.
Councilmember Cummings, anything else?
I guess I'll just mention again on the roof restoration and the DPW, the new building, making sure that we're engineering those to be able to put solar on top in the future, if not during that project.
Sure. They're flat roofs, so.
Sounds great.
I would imagine the DPW. I would imagine the new DPW building will be some sort of a like pole barn kind of component, and then with but made out of steel instead, so it'll have a very similar structure.
Okay. So just in those engineering conversations, see if it's worth doing any of that work, getting it ready for solar upfront during the initial construction, or even all at once. Obviously, anytime we're going to have a large flat roof, we'd like to see solar on it.
I agree, council member. And potentially, does Siemens apply for grants at all, Monica? I know they have in the past with NYSERDA. Don't they have some type of partnership or in terms of renewable energy, green energy facilities?
So anything, they utilize as many NYSERDA incentives and benefits that are possible for anything that we do on our projects. They have somebody dedicated to that.
I know what some of these sort of programs, certainly on the residential scale, but I don't know enough about the commercial scale, but I would guess that work that is done on the roof that also helps get it ready for solar, some of that can be funded through state grants, or I guess we're not eligible for tax credits, but.
Yeah, we're eligible though for municipal state grants, absolutely.
Certainly.
Okay.
So if we can help subsidize some of these funds by making it solar ready, that'd be great.
Definitely. All set, council member? Okay. Any other?
Yes. Sorry, I don't know if you can see me or not.
I can. I'm scrolling down.
Okay, so if everybody's all set, I can go in. And we can go to the next slide.
Hold on.
Monica, hold on. Any other council members? I thought I heard someone.
I'll wait to go to the next line.
All right, we're going to recreation.
Yes,
Oh, no. I just want to ask you one question. Sorry, Chair.
Pearson.
Deputy Mayor, on 2022, I'm seeing a sidewalk program. What is that?
2022, hold on. That was, we did that for 2020 as well too. That is additional funding that we can bond for to do additional sidewalks through the city itself. So if we want to put new sidewalks in somewhere, along a park, along a street, Campbell Avenue, places like that, that is funding that we can dip into for that, but that is 2022, and that is also subject to change depending on next year.
Okay. Is there anything out there for the homeowners? We have a lot of sidewalks that are in really desperate need of repair, and I know years ago, and I think you and I discussed this back in 17 maybe, or 18, about initiating that program again, where it'd be a low interest to the homeowners to get the sidewalks repaired.
The challenge with that is you have to seed the money because you have to pay for the contract. So you have to so I think the way that they ran it before was they seeded the money, they went out and they got everybody who said, yes, I want to be included. They went out, they took the measurements, they got the scope, they put it out to bid, and then they had to go into a contractual relationship with the city of Troy, and they paid it back through their tax bills.
Yes.
So not through a loan program, but through their tax bills. So they had to pay it back within 2 or 3 years.
Way before my time.
Yeah, I think it was a few years they had to pay it back, maybe even over 5 potentially. That is a program that has not been in existence since I've been at City Hall, and probably even many years before that. So it certainly is something we can take a look at, but we don't have the seed money right now to be able to seed it and push it. Or the staff, to be honest with you. Everybody's full out. I have 3 people in CDBG. I have 3.5 people in engineering. Everybody is just flat out.
Right. We got a lot of sidewalks throughout the one end of Troy to the other that are in dire need.
And we replace about $1 million worth of sidewalks on an annual basis.
I'm talking about neighborhoods.
In neighborhoods, yep. Lansingburg, South Troy, everywhere. We replace neighborhoods. North Central.
South Troy this year.
Yep, we're in South Troy. We just did 2 years.
112 down to wherever you go down 6th, 7th, and 8th, and you have many sidewalks that people can't use because of the unevenness, the trees that are uprooting on them. That's what I'm looking at here to try to get some of those in this area.
I completely understand. It's something that we all understand, and it's something that we all spend a lot of time looking at, and it's also, we spend CDBG money on an annual basis on every 5-year plan trying to make sure that we can get into those neighborhoods where property owners who can't afford to do their own work are given the ability to do that. But it's certainly something, if you guys want to add to the capital plan and put seed money in for us to bond and run a program and figure out how we can add some staff to do that, I'm all about it.
Thank you, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Any other council members? Okay, let's move along to recreation. Monica, please.
Yep. You want to go?
Yep, so just the financial piece of it, $2 million for various park improvements, obviously financed by what would be a bond resolution. There's just no funds available to pay for it locally. It's upgrades and improvements to equipment and facilities at various parks, including but not limited to the upper and lower playgrounds at Freer Park, Prospect Park, Kinlock Park, Thompson Street Park, 112th Street Park, and Hale Street Dog Park. Now, just for example, this is kind of referring back to what I was saying a short time ago about writing a broad bond resolution. If the bond resolution was written, hopefully it would be able to be done so. It had to be consulted with bond counsel. But if the bond resolution was written as such that it didn't name these specific 6 parks, and hypothetically speaking, there was $100,000 left over once all the work was done at these 6 parks, the city would be able to use that $100,000 towards another park. Whereas if the 6 parks are listed in the bond resolution itself, you would only be able to use the $2 million for those parks. So if you had funds left over, you would not be able to repurpose them for another park. It would be used to pay back the debt, which So that's the flexibility that's available in bond resolutions with the way they're written broadly to specific.
So just to go into a little bit more on the parks themselves, Freer Park, it's the upper and lower playgrounds. I know those are utilized quite a bit, and we do have a good Friends of network is there as well there, who also help us maintain and clean up those areas. Prospect Park, and also in the selection of the ones that I anticipated, I tried to get a good cross-section throughout the city as a whole, in addition to the improvements that they're already doing. Prospect Park, this is upgrade to the playground equipment. I'm actually thinking about seeing if we can add a stage up there, upgrading some of the bathrooms that are there, refreshing those. Kinloch Park, this is actually taking a look at the old spray pad and facilities there, upgrading those pieces. Also take a look at the drainage in Kinloch Park. It is, Kinloch was actually, has a drainage issue in the center of the park, so we need to get DPU in there and kind of take a good look at that. The Thompson Street Park, we're actually looking at this. This is the one that's to the left of the South Troy Dodgers Stadium. It's a really rarely used stadium. It is a stadium. Baseball stadium. It's a stadium in the city. Junior. George will love me for that one. The Thompson Street Park, actually James and I had a really good conversation about that, about actually looking at the utilization of that. I think all of you know that the South Troy Pop Warner uses that in its off-season, but it's not big enough and built big enough to be able to accommodate their actual games. So they go across the river to Bout Park to play their games, actually. So we don't even house our own home team. So I think it's a possibility to kind of take a look at that park and see what improvements we can make to actually maybe be able to hold a football game on it for at least Pop Warner. 112th Street Park, I know that Mr. Gully has been having long conversations with some of the members of the neighborhood up there about expanding even from beyond what we've already been talking about with the SAM grant we have for that park, about going out and beyond that. So that would include probably most likely the improvements to the north of the physical park, but I'd like to see some changes to that and the use of that as well. And then the Hale Street Dog Park. James actually laughed when I called it the Hale Street Dog Park because he thought I was putting it up in Prospect Park, and no, I'm putting a stage up there. So I'd like to see the dog park actually at the bottom of Hale Street, back in the back there where the cobbles were dumped. It's actually a really great spot. It'll allow for people to be able to walk, but also drive and be able to accommodate their vehicles. But it was also kind of tucked away, and so the noise won't be such an issue like it was in Beaman Park many years ago. I know that was one of the reasons why the dog park was taken out in Beaman Park, was the noise that it created, and also potentially the lack of maintenance of it. But I'm certain that with the Laura Rabineau and team that put together the plan and have the initiative, I am sure that they will maintain it and help us do this as well. So I know this is a city council initiative for the dog park, but I thought it would be a really great way to be able to introduce it. As we know, this year with COVID, we've really seen the importance of recreational facilities in our cities. I don't think that is going to go away from this point in time. I think it's been such a part of people's lives for long enough now that people are going to want those recreational areas. And as I say to the staff, I say, make sure that we start looking at these parks so that you want to take your kids to any single park that we go to. So whether you live in Lansingburg and visit South Troy, you should want to take your kids to that park. So it's a mindset change. It's not the way that we've managed the parks in the past. So I'm really trying to change a little bit of the culture around it, but also help improve the amenities, make sure they're ADA accessible, and get in front of that so we can provide the best atmosphere and quality of life for the residents.
Well, it's good to see some pocket parks on the agenda. It's certainly been something I know all of us have been working toward over the past many years. What I would like, Mara, if you could forward the council, the dog park study that was done by our dog park committee. They did a wonderful job, and Laura and folks did do a fantastic job. So if you could forward that to council members so they have it as backup, that would help.
So I would also, Council President,
Yep.
So I'd also caution you on that because their plan was only for a fenced-in area in Prospect Park. It was not to the level of what I am seeing, what I am envisioning at Hale Street.
Okay.
So just so you're aware of that, because I think they only called for maybe $30,000 of the spending. $30,000 won't even include the site work for this area. So I've incorporated that into the thought process. So I mean, this is going to be something like you see in Half Moon, Cooks Park, and Colony. It's a little bit more official.
That's great. And, you know, we obviously, when we asked them to look at a potential location in a dog park, recognizing we didn't really have a whole lot of money in the budget, we asked them to, you know, be very conservative. So that's great. And that's really, really good to hear. I'll open it up for council members.
Council President?
Yes, Council Member Steele.
Thank you. So Andy, if I understand this correctly, what you're saying is we'll write the bond in a general way and not identify individual parks? Was that what I'm hearing you say?
I would hope to do that. I don't like making promises though when it comes to that, because Paul Reichel and Bon Shenica King know a whole lot more about it than I do.
Well, you'll also see the bond resolution before you approve. I mean, you approve the bond resolutions as they come through.
Right. What I guess I would advocate for then is that if there's any way we could include Beaman Park in that, as was mentioned in the budget message, that would be great.
Yeah,
So,
and Beaman Park is one of the ones we took a look at. I mean, it's definitely, I know there's some areas over on, what's that street? The one that goes into St. Mary's or Samaritan at the back. Eagle Street?
Eagle.
Yeah.
No, that's not Hutton.
Eagle.
Yes.
Yeah. Eagle Street. So at the time, when we had the contractor in there and we took up the old pad and everything there, I do know that that's an area. So that's why we said including but not limited to.
Right.
I know Beaman Park, they have the upgraded playground there and the fenced-in area from our lovely people at Samaritan. And then, you know, I think maybe the basketball hoops probably need to be redone, and maybe a resealing on the court, but yeah, so that's why I said including but not limited to.
Right.
Beaman Park has had some improvements, but not necessarily, it still needs some additional stuff.
Not recently, and it's really getting used a lot. So just putting a word in for that.
Council President?
Council Member Steele, are you okay?
I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Council Member Cummings?
This is wonderful to see. Thank you for your work on this, everyone involved, but particularly Monica. And particularly I guess if we do start having to name parks beyond Beaman Park, it could be good to put the Gorge Park in explicitly as a potential place to spend some of this money. I don't know what'll end up happening, but I know that connects very directly to the dog park in the long term through the new parcel that we recently have been taking ownership of, as I understand it. I don't know whether that's actually finalized yet, but it should be soon if it hasn't. And that, you know, in terms of overall connection, there's both a trail that goes down to the Garnet Douglas Baltimore Trail right from that dog park, and then it continues through where the dog park discussion would happen, and then down into the gorge through that new right of way. So all of that would be great to open it up as a trail for folks to walk their dogs and to walk themselves. And
Nasha, can I just ask you a question? When you say Gorge Park, are you talking about the Linden side, or are you talking about the Congress Street side?
I mean, I would advocate for an expansion of the official designation of it to include both sides. I suppose we could call the Congress Street side part of the Hale Street Dog Park or whatever, but I think it's turning into a network.
Okay, no, I just said you said improvements. You said improvements. I just didn't know where you were looking at specifically for improvements, Linden side or the Congress side.
No, I'm looking. I mean, obviously both need it, but I'm looking in particular on the Congress Street side, making sure that we, you know, it's probably relatively limited in terms of making sure the grade's okay in a couple of spots and making sure signage is adequate so that it is able to be an open trail that folks can access that side much more safely. You know, I think in terms of the dangers of the gorge,
a lot of that comes from folks not knowing how to get there in a safe way and participate and engage with it in a safe way. And so if we can have some better signage on that side and at the overlook that allows people to know that there's an easy spot to go check it out, and that we'll have more people using it and we'll have more eyes on it, and hopefully less people climbing in a dangerous way. But that being said, all that will require, could require some additional funds. So certainly advocate for that. The Hale Street Park lot, that's been something I've been long thought was the right spot for the dog park. So really glad to see that. It also has significant space for potential parking, certainly for the dog park itself, but also for the trails and for the neighborhood in general. So I would think as you start to design that, probably fine as a gravel lot. I don't know that you need to pave it, but certainly there's a lot of area there that should be dedicated for parking, and then a lot of area that should be dedicated for the park. I will note that the area all the way in the back that connects through to the trail, as far as I can tell, the parcel map anyway shows that a property owner way down the hill, their property extends well up into that. So that's a deed issue that may need to be repaired as we start this project.
Okay. And, regarding the right of way, where exactly is Councilmember Cummings talking about? And
so the road that goes down to the hydro plant, the ampersand hydro facility, the actual road and the land down to the gorge there, that's really the easiest way to access that area, is, I don't know if the Corporation Council is still in the room, but last I heard it was very close to being signed over to the city.
I see his arm.
But that's not necessarily in the dog park area that we're talking about.
No, not the dog park.
No, that's why I mentioned that if we do have to delineate actual parks in the bond for extra funds or whatever, it could be good to include that in the delineation if we're working in that area.
So I definitely think I appreciate all of that, and the Narrows project is a big thing that I have long since lauded, but I think that this is definitely, especially because you're talking about the improvements down into the gorge and some significant infrastructure improvements to make sure people can get there safely. Hopefully, and I say hopefully, we actually get the opportunity to look at more parks grants coming up this year, even maybe National Park Service, especially because we had, and I totally lost his name right now, the guy who helped us with the trail, the Garnet Douglas Trail, especially because we've worked with them in the past on that. I think that would be a really great opportunity to do that, exactly what you're saying, Anasha, make it so the liability is lessened because of the build that we do. Right. And be able to entice people to do it appropriately rather than try to scale rocks and engage our fire department.
That would be great. Yes. I think everyone would appreciate that. Obviously I love having it as a secret nook that is often a place of solitude, but it's a gem and it should be appreciated as one and utilized as one. Let's see. And I guess again, also anything we can do to develop it as an actual park, from my understanding, dramatically reduces our potential liability as a city on those areas as well. The other thing I'll mention on that is, I mean, this is a much bigger question, but has there been any discussion or look at, you combine the Gorge Park and Prospect Park, could combine into an area of significance enough to look at actual state park designation. I don't know what it takes to do that. I'm sure it'd be a much longer and bigger question, but I'll keep throwing that out there as a question as to whether or not we could interest the state in getting more directly involved in our park development.
I would have to say that is actually the first I've heard of that, Anasha. So listen, I am game for anything. If New York State wants to come in and manage a park for us and take care of the improvements to it and still make it open to our residents, I'm kind of all for that. So It's certainly we can, something we can take a look at.
I don't think there's been a new park in a while in the state. I was starting to look into it, but you know, if we want to honor Garnet Douglas Baltimore or something.
Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Deputy Mayor, just a couple things I just want to touch on and maybe have people start thinking about. Up in Prospect Park, has been any conversation or anything about with the pool up there? What's going to be done with that? The tennis court up there could use some do-overs. I mean, that is used up there in that park. There's a lot of people, as you know, go up there and use it. And the other thing is regards to the dog parks. I know back in 2017, Walnut Street, it was supposed to, we have a resolution that it was supposed to, oh God, that was supposed to have been turned into a dog park, but it was used as a staging site. And I know I drove Steve Strikeman crazy over it, but I don't think anything has been done with that. It was never converted into a dog park. I don't know if that's another area that would be looked at under this.
That's the same.
Well, that's the same as, that's Hale Street is Walnut Street.
Hale Street is, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're the same, they're the same neighborhood.
Same area.
Okay, so that is finally gonna get something. Okay. Didn't
Yep,
realize it was the same park. Thank you.
Yep, in regards to Prospect Park, just to kind of talk to you about that a little bit, the tennis courts are definitely one of the areas that we are looking to do some investment in. With the Troy Tennis Association and also the 15 Love that utilize that non-COVID. It's really a rare opportunity to have that many courts. They used to do quite a few tournaments and exhibitions and stuff like that. They had built into the hill, they had seating built into the hill so you could watch the exhibition court. So it's something previous Mayor Pattison and I spent a lot of time during COVID just kind of looking at it one afternoon, and just, he's a big tennis player, so we kind of went through it and just had a conversation around some of the things it could do that could attract, similar to what the park in Schenectady did when they built their system over there. So it's certainly something that I wanted to take a look at, make sure that the bathroom facilities are good, they're in the pool. As far as the pool goes, it is decommissioned. To renovate it would be astronomical in cost. I don't feel that the city, to be really honest with you, needs a third pool. I'd rather see an improvement to the splash pads that are there and be able to do something similar to what we're doing at 7th and Ingalls in a smaller scale there instead of that. But yeah, so the tennis courts were certainly something that we were looking at as something to improve upon up there.
Right. The pool is not what I'm looking at replacing, because that would be astronomical to do that. It's been sitting there. There's a lot of, you could probably put a hiking trail through it.
I do know some people have looked at it for performance. There's a lot of possibilities. I would like to engage some creative minds to kind of take a look at that. I've been visiting some other locations in Massachusetts where there's some amazing performance spaces that are built that use the vista and the view that we have in a similar capacity. So there's some really amazing pieces that we can do at very little cost, to be honest with you. But then once you get into that structure of that, structurally, you got to make sure it's okay, but then what that looks like. And it could be we just open it up as event space or performance space, as long as we can make it structurally sound and safe.
I was thinking of a skating park on the inside there.
You don't want the liability of that, and Rick just cringed.
I knew that. Thank you.
Council President.
Before Councilmember Cummings goes, Councilmember Zaluski.
Yeah, so both Councilman Cummings and Councilwoman Ash McPherson have been covering some of my points. But first of all, I just want to say I love the plan. I love the investment in these parks, especially the fact that three of the 6 parks on that presentation are in my district, and the 7th park that we've been discussing, which I also was going to bring up, but Councilman Cummings did already. The Postingal Gorge Park is also in my district, and that's another one that is important. Beautiful scenic area that you know, folks definitely, you can see cars parked down there all the time. I know Councilman Cummings, you mentioned the Congress Street side of it. I'm actually, I'd like to see some investment in the Linden Ave side of the park, but basically both sides. We want to see both sides.
There's good people on both sides.
Yes. Yeah. With regard to the Hale Street Dog Park, I think that was that came out of the dog park committee that Laura Rabineau and David were involved with. I want to just kind of go in reverse a little bit further. We had a dog park committee, the East Side Neighborhood Group, back in 2009, which Blaze Hartley spearheaded. We had a dog park committee, and that found that the finding from that was that we would have a dog park in Kinlock Park. Unfortunately, the city did not really want to invest in that, so they allocated something like $1,000, and some old fencing was purchased, and that's just not the way to do it. So I'm happy to hear the deputy mayor is looking at other municipalities, looking at how to do it right. And yes, to do it right, you might have to spend some more money, but you end up with something that people will actually use, unlike the Kinlock Park Dog Park, which just a bunch of fence that's last time I looked at it, the airlock portion was not even working, and it just didn't turn out the way any of us envisioned, and that's because we didn't invest in it. No one took it seriously. Back in 2009, when a few of us were talking about dog parks, everyone else said, "Oh, that's just an amenity. It's foolish. Why pursue it?" Now, fast forward 10 years, 11 years, and we're all talking about the fact that dog parks are an important part of providing for quality of life in the city of Troy. So that's wonderful to see. Prospect Park, I will also agree with the councilwoman. The tennis courts are in desperate need of resurfacing. It's hard to play a tennis match out there, if you're serious about it, and your balls are going all over the place because they're hitting ridges in the court. Regarding our former mayor, Mark Pattison, I still continue to challenge him to tennis matches, and I will let the record note that he's not taking me up on that. He's definitely afraid of getting beaten. I love the idea of a performance space in Prospect Park, so definitely let's pursue that. Kinlock Park. Kinlock Park has been neglected for a long time, and I'm happy to hear that we're talking about renovating the spray pad. I also would like to get on the list. The basketball court desperately needs resurfacing. A lot of kids use that park almost on a daily basis, and we just want to give them a good and safe space to be playing sports. So if we can just get the basketball court also on that list, I would appreciate that.
So can I change the number to 2.5?
No.
Would it really cost $500,000 to resurface the court?
No, but if you add in everything that you guys just talked about, you could probably keep going. And also keep in mind, these are the initial pieces. So there's always following years to do more investment and more changes, more parks. So these are, I tried to be representative of places where I knew either there was not a lot of investment done recently, or that I knew that we could take a premier park like Prospect Park that was designed to be that premier park, and actually add to it, and then also be able to bring it back to where it was in the day. So I appreciate everything you're saying, and I'm writing down some notes as well, but a lot of what you're talking about, other than Gorge Park, I didn't have that in my notes, are very similar thought process that I had in regards to amenities that we're going to be looking at. So I appreciate all the feedback.
If I can just add, I forgot on my notes here regarding the tennis courts. We still have lights that are there. I'd like to get those lights in use. There's nothing like night tennis. It's a blast. It keeps people exercising, longer than necessary, which is wonderful. And they're there. So if we need to refurbish them, let's allocate some money to them. But I'd like to get those lights running again.
I go over to Lincoln Park. Never go over there, council member. It's fun.
Yes.
Saying all of that, I also would like to continue these conversations, Monica, during general services. We could talk about all of this also.
Okay. So we're ready to move on to the next slide? It's the last slide.
Council members, does anyone else want to add anything? I just want to say ditto, 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 ditto. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, let's move along, please.
All right, so the golf course improvements. So I do know that Greg Tudor, he and I have been talking at length. I know that he invited some of the council members, or some of the council members reached out to him about getting a tour. I know Mr. Gully plays frequently, so he is also aware of the needed improvements of the golf course. So what we did, I know last year when we presented this in 2020, we put in for the full dollar amount for all of the phases, even though it would be done incrementally. We knew you were not a fan of that. So what we did was we broke it out. And keep in mind that with these improvements, the first phase is $725,000. And I will say, and I'm not necessarily discouraging it, but the way it was presented last year in a lump sum with 5 incremental phases to it and 5 spend downs was that all of the engineering was going to be able to be done at once and then be done for the whole project. The way we're presenting it now, because of the concern over bonding such a large dollar amount last year, is that we've broken it down into individual phases. So a 5-year plan with 5 phases, but each phase will have its own engineering. It'll add long view, it'll add dollars to the project because typically you would want to engineer all at once and be able to price it all at once. But that's okay because it's smaller bites, right? We're still getting to the apple, but it's just different bites to it. So this proposal is for $725,000. This is, again, to be financed through a bond resolution, like Andy said previously. It's the first of 5 phases. This phase includes improved drainage measures, bunkers, tee additions, leveling and expansion of some tee areas, and then the addition of a short game practice area. So keep in mind, as you've talked to Greg and to Josh over the years, I will tell you, this was an amazing year for golf. It was really bad to start because we weren't allowed to open, but once we were able to open under severe restrictions, like no golf carts to start, we couldn't have anybody but one person in the pro shop. We were really limited. We carved out our part-time staff to be able to actually operate the course, so to speak. The maintenance side of it, it's a huge investment by the city. It is a pristine area. Again, another nature preserve area, a huge walkable amenity. It's a huge recreational amenity to our community. Just ask anybody who was in COVID times this year and ask any of the guys working on the golf course how many times they had to work around people that were walking. So that being said, the biggest challenge that you will hear from them is that they want to open earlier, they want to open sooner, they want to open later, and they want to open more often. So all of the answer to those is drainage, drainage, drainage. The back 9, over the last 2 years, we've lost at least 2 to 3 weeks trying to open up the back 9. And even beyond that, trying to get golf carts back there. You can open it to walking, but you lose your golf cart revenue. So the biggest impact for our buck now is to be looking at the drainage issues. This will help get us open earlier, open sooner, open later, and open more often, and will allow us to actually be able to maintain it better because our crews can actually navigate the golf course in their equipment rather than not being able to get on. And then it also maintains the course in a better manner. So just kind of keeping in mind, so on an average year or a wet year, if you get more than a half an inch of rain, Greg has stated that areas can stay wet for up to 2 weeks. So, I mean, some areas are a little bit less than that, but some of the areas are pretty significantly where the drain is an issue. So one of the other things that they wanted to do, because when we make infrastructure improvements, not necessarily everybody can see them, right? So drainage also usually involves underwork, people seeing work that you can't visibly see. So they wanted to make sure that there were some visible additions that were done as well too. And that's why they were talking about the bunkers, the tee box additions, leveling and expanding some of the tee areas, and then the short game practice area. The short game practice area is probably going to be one of the most visible pieces, especially to those who don't necessarily partake in golf. That is actually going to be right to the right of the first tee, right there by the entrance to the pub. What they'll do is they will expand an area and be able to offer short game practice They do have the putting green there, but this will be a chip and wedge area as well, and be able to work on your game there as well. And I think if you have any more specific questions, you can certainly connect with Greg. We can have him available next week as well. But I think that this is, again, it's an amenity. Just like we were just talking about the $2 million of improvements for the parks, this is also an amenity. It's an investment into a business that we run, but it's also an investment into the community of which our residents live and they work and they play on. So I think that it's a multi-pronged benefit when you deal with talking about investment into the golf course. I will tell you this was a really great year for us to be able to look at what the course can do, and we'll go into more detail about this next week, into what the golf course is capable of. And we've always had that question, what we're capable of without leagues and without tournaments. This year we were able to see what that happened. While we did not necessarily get all of the revenue that we anticipated, we certainly exceeded our expectations into what we could do when we didn't have all those extra subsidies as far as other revenues go. So it's been a course for the people, for the public. It's not necessarily, more people have been able to golf on that because there's been availability for people to get out and get on. We're looking forward to next year because we will be able to have less restrictions, hopefully, as far as golf goes. And we'll be able to get the staff back so that we can have a full day of golf and be able to make those improvements.
Okay. I would ask council members, can we move on and wait till we have Greg at the table and talk to him next week at General Services, which will,
Sure.
I'm sorry, Recreation. Okay.
I just want to make sure that, Council President.
Yep. Council Member Cummings.
Yeah, you don't need to answer this now, but just make sure that for that meeting you have some good calculations on the comparison between what the annual cost of this bond is and the what it would mean to be open for an extra month, say, on those back 9. Because I think these, from what I remember, these projects were the ones that most clearly had some significant potential payback. So I'd like to see some good numbers on that at the next meeting.
Monica, maybe if Greg could also, I'm not sure if this makes sense, engineer a 5-year plan, but then implement in a phased approach.
That's what we've already done. We've actually developed that's how we got this. We actually literally have, and you can't see this, but right here, this is actually a breakdown hole by hole. I mean, I think Anasha has seen it. I don't know who else went with Anasha. I know Jim Gully has seen it. And if you invite yourself up to Greg will gladly take you hole to hole and show you exactly what we're doing. Last year when we presented this, we showed you the plan and we gave you the full breakdown. So that is the same thing that we're working on right now.
Okay. You had said engineer separately 5 different times. That's correct. What I was talking about. And what I'm saying, engineer it up front, implementation, the funding to implement, put that in the phased approach.
But no, because this is the 725 is inclusive of the engineering costs for phase 1 and the improvements for phase 1. I'm sorry, I was saying no to the mayor, not you. So that includes, so if you're talking about for 2021 doing the engineering for the project, we can't bond for that, I don't believe. Andy, can you bond for a project?
See, what I was saying, 5-year project.
Bond resolution, the total cost.
Yeah, if we did engineering for all 5 phases with this, we would have to add to the bonding.
Gotcha. Okay. And, you know, I do talk to Greg here and there, and obviously being in my backyard, I frequent not as much as Mr. Gully, but I do frequent it. I try to walk, and it's incredible, guys. The trails through Freer Park, if you haven't been through them, they're incredible. They're fabulous. And believe me, so many folks, not just in the Freer Park area, but all throughout the city, utilize it. So we'll talk to Greg next week and get more particulars unless any other council member would like to add anything.
So I guess what I would like to ask, just because with the format of the Zooms and everything, if you have specific questions, I will put you on an email with Greg tomorrow. If you have specific questions, I know, like I said, a few council members have been up there and taken the tour. If you have any specific questions specific to this, what was presented tonight, just let me know, and then I can make sure he answers those for you as well.
Absolutely. And that should go toward only because in the parks, I may have other questions. So I'll send questions prior to that also. Okay.
Okay, that would be great. Kevin Graber, I don't believe will be on the call next week. We are bringing Josh and Greg, and then Chuck will be here.
Okay, very good. All right, want to move along?
Department of Transportation funded projects. There's 2 of them within the capital plan. The first is Campbell Avenue Bridge.
Andy?
Yes.
Just real quick, while we're just going in order, and I know it's for next year, the $5 million, or for 2022, I apologize for Knickerbocker. Real quick, and we could wait till next week, but where are we with the planning of the Knickerbocker pool?
She asked you.
Oh, I don't.
We can wait till next week if you want.
Oh, well, you asked Andy, and I was waiting for Andy to respond. So a lot of the challenge right now is COVID, and also trying to, we are self-funding that money, the $80,000, and that was not in the COVID budget. So we'll try to pick that back up over the next couple months and be able to get back with the Knickerbocker Park Association and with the planning of that as well.
Okay. Has the RFP gone out for the engineer, or were we utilizing our in-house?
We were using in-house, or CHA.
Yep, very good. Okay, sorry, Andy.
Oh, you're fine. So there's 2 Department of DOT funded projects in the capital plan. The first is Campbell Avenue Bridge, which is $3.7 million for the construction. Both of these are grant funded. Campbell Avenue Bridge is funded at 95% through New York State DOT. 80% of that is federal monies. 15% of that is state monies through the Marchicelli program. There is an existing bond resolution that was approved as part of the 2020 capital plan for this. Right. We are currently reviewing it to ensure that it has adequate funding for today's pricing, because that was based off of 2018 pricing. The second project.
Can we stay on that real quick? So I know we received a state grant. We were notified sometime this year for the 3.7, but now you're saying we have to bond for the 3.7. I take it it's on a reimbursement plus.
It's already been, the bond resolution's already been approved. It was approved last year.
Okay.
What I'm doing right now with the deputy mayor is just checking to make sure that that covers the entire cost of construction.
So we're in the middle, we already did the design, so the design's been approved by New York State. If, as many of you remember, we presented it actually during COVID, I think maybe during June. The engineers were on and gave the presentation of the design. So Aaron and crew are working with them on the final details. We're going to price it just to make sure that the pricing is still good at the 3.2, maybe 3.1 and something for the change to accommodate the design piece of that, and then be able to make sure that that still covers it. That's all. It's just more of a review just to make sure we're good financially on it, because anything above the 3.7 is something that we would have to cover.
Okay, I saw it and I'm like, oh my God, we have to do.
No.
I got it.
You've already done it.
Thank you.
The other project is Congress and Ferry Street, which is in the capital plan for $550,000 for design. That is grant funded at 80% through New York State DOT. That is federal funding. That there has been no bond resolution brought forward for this project, with anticipated construction in the 2022 fiscal year.
So this is the project of essentially extending the original Congress Street project down to all the way to the Congress Street Bridge. So this is also, the awarded funds are for the analysis, the design, and the construction. So just like the bridge, this is a TIP project, so we'll start with the design next year. And then when we applied for these two grants, we actually offset them, so we weren't building at the same time. So the construction for this will be in 2022, as Andy talked about. So this is going to be an improved roadway design. So this is, think about this as coming down Congress Street from essentially City Station down to the bridge, better traffic flow, an overall more comfortable urban environment. So we're talking about pedestrian safety, streetscape improvements like repaving, fixing the sidewalks, crosswalks, traffic signals, all of those things, including on-street parking, bike infrastructure, curb extensions, and other improvements. All of those things will be taken into consideration when we redesign it. Council President, you've been emailing about the weird striping left over from construction in front of the Vicina on 4th Street or on Congress Street. This is in that area, so that whole area, you're talking about the trees, the lighting area down there, all of the stuff that we've heard concerns of over the past, for me anyway, over the past 8 years, all of that will be taken care of in this project.
And again, this bond resolution, 80% of it is just merely for cash flow purposes and will be reimbursed.
Yep.
Council President,
Yes, Councilmember Steele.
will this intersect with the redo of Taylor?
Most likely, yes, and that'll all be taken into so when they're looking at the design, we just finished up with that joint design with Waterville, and then taking into play your work, and well, not your work, but the Troy Housing Authority's work, Penrose's work, and then all of that. So all of that will be coordinated. It's like 3 distinctly different projects.
We had a great meeting with tenants tonight. It was very well done. Very good. Very exciting.
Penrose is, they're aces as far as their community interaction. I'm thoroughly impressed with them.
Very good. Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Steele. Any other council members, questions? You know, obviously the Congress Street is long overdue. And Monica, you also said, so the 3 projects, Taylor, Waterville, and our grant will all be worked together, or?
So I mean, Penrose, so the Taylor sites and the Congress Street Bridge, I mean, the Congress Street Bridge was a feasibility study of being able to take that River Street extension. Remember we talked about in the comp plan where we extend River Street all the way down to South Troy? So that was a feasibility study. I know that they've completed that work and they're trying to incorporate that design obviously into the Taylor site. So any work that we do as far as construction will also take in mind the site plan and the work that's going to be done. I do believe, if I remember correctly, they were trying to I think they, and I don't want to put words in, so Sue, just tell me if I'm wrong. I thought that they were trying to anticipate taking down the Taylor 1 and 2 buildings in 2021, or at least seeking funding for that. So if that happens, it actually dovetails nicely into 2022 when we start these improvements.
Right. You're right on. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
If I can jump in, this is Steve Streichman. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We had a study done by CDTA of the intersection of Congress and River Street, and that's been it's underway right now. The Waterville study is about to commence. So Monica, just whatever. It's the Congress Street one, or the bridge study is about to start, and what we completed was the CDTA. I just wanted to clarify that. So James Rath from my office, he's working on all 3 projects, and we're meeting with Penrose all the time. So all 3 projects will be coordinated.
All right. Another day.
Helpful. Okay. Further questions, discussion? All right.
2 more. We discussed this last Thursday, building demolitions in the capital plan for $125,000, funded through the proposed general fund budget. This achieves a goal that these types of costs are locally funded and not done through bond resolution.
So this is, you know, I wish I could double this sometimes because there are a lot of structures that are in need of assistance. But this is a good start for us. What I would like to do, and I know you guys had talked earlier with Rick in regards to the zombie awards and the funding that is received. I know there's a lot of pots of money, and especially as we're starting to get some significant returns on our investment when that zombie grant project. So I think that there is definitely a desire to also to fund building demolitions with some of that money as well too, so that we have a residual funding source to be able to kind of refill the pot when we use it. So I think that's something to consider in addition to streetscape improvements and funding whatever else Steve is looking to fund. So I think that there's some ways to do multiple pieces of that, but for now the $125,000 is at least a decent start. It will not get us to where we were, but it's a good start.
Regarding the building demolition, Monica, didn't we bond last year for some demos? Or
yep, and we did them.
That's all gone?
Yep. Yeah, we did 2 rounds. 2 rounds of demos last year.
This year.
This year, sorry. 2 rounds of demos.
That has been fully expended.
Okay.
Yeah, we have like, I'm hoping I have enough money in a pot for 1 more building. That I have my eye on, that everybody has their eye on.
Want to reveal it?
So we're caught in this really big predicament with the 92 Campbell Avenue that we all know is the hoarder house. The bank has essentially disowned it and discharged their paperwork on it, and the owner of the property is long gone and not responsive. So we're looking, Eric Ferraro is looking at some New York State new laws promoted by New York State to be able to allow us to do some consistent inspections over a 90-day period and then be able to actually confiscate it essentially after, I think it's a year. Rick is looking into that with him, I believe. So it's a program that we're trying to look at so that we can actually get a hold of it and then be able to deal with that, because we got nowhere with the bank. The bank literally, before we went to court, literally discharged the papers and walked away. So it's really frustrating, especially for what the neighbors have to put up with, for what everybody else has to put up with. But unfortunately, you know, I just want to make sure that our ducks are all in a row so that when we do spend money to go in there, we either know we're doing so with our eyes wide open or with the ability to be able to lean it so that we can get it out of somebody down the road, and that's quickly dwindling at this moment. But it is really such an eyesore and such a public health hazard that we need to get it down.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible. I feel for the neighbors. I really do.
And the neighbors really, especially the 2 to the outside edges of those 4, you know, really maintain their properties, and, you know, every time code enforcement has been there, have been really good about, you know, the situation, but also, you know, certainly exasperated.
Yes, it has. Okay. Further questions, discussion? Okay, it's total of 12.875, Andy, with 125 from the general fund for a total of 13 mil. And the council's job is going to be to try to tailor that somehow or squeeze more projects in that. So we will roll up our sleeves and we'll talk about it, but we'll get more info, and if folks could email the appropriate folks before the committee meetings, that'd be great.
Yep, I will send out, I will introduce everybody to each, to Greg, specifically Greg for his capital plan, because that's the one you obviously seem to have more questions about. Do you want to, like, we have the garbage fund capital plan. Just a real quick one, just because it's a very small improvement, but it's contingent on other things.
So the garbage fund capital plan is $135,000.
Andy, what page, please?
265.
I knew it was back there somewhere, but I figured to expedite it. Thank you.
So it's $135,000. Chuck and Renee can speak much more to this on November 5th. But it's funding for improvements at the Alamo site, including concrete pads. The note in the capital plan, we're going to look to fund it through the garbage fund based on the 2021 fiscal year results. Essentially, it'll be an ongoing evaluation of revenues and expenditures to determine if and how much funding would be available.
It is also from what I've been told, it's also a program that can be phased in. So since we're self-funding it, it's not necessarily like we need cash up front to be able to do it. I believe we submitted the permit for the Alamo to open as a facility, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, or maybe a month ago or so. I believe those paperworks are in. This is actually, and that paperwork is being approved for the existing footprint that we have, and then this will only add to that. Not that we would add volume, but we would create more areas so that we could spread out a little bit down there and be able to kind of have these nooks for when you drove in, you're able to drop at certain points, and it would just make it a little bit tidier. So the areas that we're talking about as far as concrete pads and stuff like that are areas that are just really just soil now and just need to be solidified so that we are able to work for them on a surface.
I guess, my immediate question, Andy, why would this not qualify under Public Works and, under the garbage fund? I mean, I get it. The Alamo obviously will be used.
It's under the garbage fund.
It's under the garbage fund. So the capital plans are separated by fund. So it's general fund, garbage fund, and then water fund. So it's just separated because of the different funds that fund. It's the different financing source comes from it's specific to the fund where the financing source originates from.
I guess, on that, so you're using the garbage fund almost as a collateral, I take it, for new building?
No, so any proceeds that are done from the garbage fund will incorporate the payment of that. So it's essentially like the demo money. We'll pay for the demo out of the operating costs of the fund.
Okay, that was my question. So the bonding for this will be paid out of the garbage fund?
Nope, there is no bonding. This is self-funded.
Oh, I'm sorry.
135,000 is
135 out of the general fund.
Nope, the $135,000 is paid
out of the garbage fund. Out of the garbage fund. Correct?
Correct.
If you sell enough bags.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Get it. All right. Questions? Okay. Andy, any other?
That was it for the capital fund presentation.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. Everyone's back. Appreciate it. And I like the overview. And now when we get into particulars on some of the bonding, we can do it in committees. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Even though we didn't motion into the meeting, I will take a motion to adjourn from the capital budget.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. If everyone's good, we could go right into finance.
Council President?
Yes, sir.
I just have a question for Councilwoman Steele. Did I miss this? Judgments and claims, A1930. Did we cover that or not? Yeah,
that was not covered.
Okay, because usually in the past when we've covered in the law committee for the Corporation Council budget, we go from A1420 over to A1930 and cover judgments and claims. It's just a single line item.
You want to do that in finance, or do you want to, it's up to everyone.
I don't know how to proceed. I just wanted to point it out.
As we stated, this was both Rick and my first budget hearing. So thank you for clarifying. I'm fine doing it in finance.
Okay.
Rick is.
I came late to law, so yeah, I wasn't sure what was covered, what wasn't, and was going to backtrack with Sue. Let's, if everyone's okay to go into finance, are we all good, or do you need a quick 2-minute break?
I could hold out.
All right, let's do it. I will officially open up the finance meeting at 7:37, October 22nd. I'll ask everyone to stand.
Council President, before you start, shouldn't we be doing the special?
No, that's after.
That's it, okay.
Yep, finance. All right, I'll ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilmember McDermott, if you could lead us in the pledge, that'd be great. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember McDermott. We'll do a quick roll call. Councilmember Gully.
Still here.
All right, Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Here.
Councilmember Steele.
Present.
Councilmember Cummings.
Present.
Councilmember Zaluski.
Here.
Councilmember McDermott.
Here.
Council President Mantello is here. We have 7 present, no one absent. And bear with me, I apologize. I have 3 screens open. Why did it do that? Here we go. We'll go right into the agenda. Okay. What I'll do regarding Andy's hearing, if we would like, we could do that simultaneously with the resolution, if everyone's good with that. Okay. Sure. Unless we want to do an official hearing. I think it's okay. Approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the prior?
Yep. Motion to approve minutes as written.
Thank you. Councilmember Zaluski motions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Councilmember Ash McPherson. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Presentation of the agenda. We have no local laws, a number of ordinances, and a few resolutions. Public forum. No one signed up to speak, correct, Mara?
That's correct.
Okay, local laws, none. Ordinance 77, ordinance amending the capital projects fund and general fund budgets. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Andy, we're putting in an extra 52 for Leonard Hospital and 40 for the police impound building. And haven't we put extra money for the police impound building before?
Yes, yes, we did in 2000, at the end of 2019. We put in, I want to say, another $180,000 if I remember correctly. It was either $180,000 or $120,000. That was.
But that was for the total. Once the RFP came back.
That was based off of the bid results.
So this is actually an expense that was discovered once we had done, if everybody remembers, we actually did a remediation prior to building the site. It was close to the police department wall. It's where an old gas tank was. So we worked with the cleanup company, had it all remediated. Department of Labor signed off on it, closed the account, did everything. When we were excavating to put the new building in, outside of that area, of the general area of where they were working, they actually hit contaminated soil. So that added to the cost of that. And then And that's essentially the extension of that. It was the extra work that we had to do in order to accommodate that part of it.
Council President,
Yes, Councilmember Ash McPherson.
what does this cost so far? If the impound space building by the station?
I don't have the total dollar amount on me.
I can pull it up.
We can certainly get it for you.
To date, I just need 1 second to pull it up.
Yep.
Please.
No, it's okay. It does seem.
The revised budget amount is 220,000. Is that the total that the max it will cost?
No, the expense budget. So that's split out because there were different funding sources. The total expenses for the total construction budget is now $340,000. To date, city.
And what are we building there?
To date, the city has spent $250,000, and there is currently another $28,000 outstanding on purchase orders.
So what we're building is the storage facility and it's not a storage facility, it's the intake area for the vehicles. And remember, it was just an enclosed yard before. This is actually expanding that so that when they have a seizure of vehicles and equipment and stuff like that, they actually can get them and store them in a facility.
Just a pile of bikes before.
Hold on, please.
Yeah, and the bikes will be stored inside now.
So you're looking at close to almost 300,000 to build a place to store vehicles. That's all it's going to store.
It's a big facility. Have you driven by it?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, absolutely. By the time you engineer it and you put the facility in and you put the pad in and you build it with prevailing wage, absolutely.
Well, and it's more than just storage.
And it's more than just storage too. I mean, they got
ETs are going in there.
Yeah, they're. Say that again.
Isn't there ET work going to be in there?
Some of the evidence technology. I mean, they're actually going to do work in there. It's not going to just be a storage shed. Like the evidence technicians will be in there working similar to what they do in the one garage bay that they do have. So it'll be an extension, and it's something that the chiefs have been really, really keenly on and want to do it.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because I thought you were saying it was a storage shed. That's why I'm asking. Is it going to be used for something else?
No, well, they are looking to store the vehicles in there. So when they seize a vehicle in a drug bust and they need to store that somewhere while they do their evidence stuff on it, then yes, they're going to do that. They're going to store it there.
Yeah, I think we use storage shed as shorthand here, and maybe we shouldn't call it just that. But so if a vehicle is taken as evidence, it will be processed in there and stored in there. Maybe defense counsel might want to come in and inspect the vehicle or have studies done on it as well. So it keeps it out of the elements, protects the evidence, but it also gives us additional dry space within which to do our investigations.
Okay. I just wanted clarification on what it really was, because I wasn't sure. You're saying storage, so I'm just thinking it's going to be for storage, the videos, because I know they were talking about having a building to store any of the videos that they need to take. For the cameras and so forth. So I was under the assumption that's what this building was going to be used for, not for the vehicle intakes and things like that. I just want a clarification.
I think the storage for the video, you're talking about for the body cam?
Yes.
So that's a cloud storage. That's an internet-based cloud storage, not a physical site for storage.
All right, I'm gonna have to go back in the records. On what I'll go back on this. Thanks.
And Monica, would it be appropriate? Is it available right now for a tour and have maybe the chief or assistant chief, walk us through and tell us obviously what they're using it for? Because it sounds like I initially also thought, it'd be for the bikes and cars, evidence, etc. But it does sound like more than that. So yeah, the price tag looked a little steep initially, but I have driven by it a few times, and so maybe I'm
sure you can reach out to the chiefs and schedule a time to have a conversation with them. They're always welcome to have a conversation.
Perfect. God bless you. God bless you.
I stifled it.
We see this on us.
Councilmember Ash McPherson, are you all set?
I'm good.
Good. Councilmember Cummings.
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay. Any further discussion?
We didn't get anything on the Leonard Hospital.
Leonard, Andy?
Do you want to take that one? Leonard? I'm going to have Rick explain the Leonard Hospital.
Explain what part of it.
So we had to issue a change order for the work of the Leonard Hospital. Rick was actually involved with this as well as Jim Crusoe and myself and the attorneys. So there's a change order that they came back to us with for well over $1 million. We obviously had a big, lovely heart-to-heart conversation in a conference room with their attorney and Green Island Corporation. That being said, there was additional asbestos that was behind areas that you could not see, even despite our extensive remediation plan that we had put forward to them. Unfortunately, with that type of adhesive asbestos, there's a lot of things you just can't see until you take down walls or take down chases and stuff like that. So that being said, they came to us with like a $1.3 million change order that was absolutely insane. And they had already remediated a lot of it, so they couldn't even prove. So what we did was we actually worked with our environmental engineer and them, and also PSI, our air monitoring company. Because if you recall, whenever you have a building remediation, nobody can go in. The building is completely sealed off, and the only people who are able to go into that are the environmental corporation company of their licensed professional remediators, as well as the air monitoring company that we hire to essentially be a third-party eyes and ears. That being said, we had to literally stop a little bit of the process of it, be able to get in there, do a full-scale look at the remaining areas of where we anticipated some additional asbestos. And then this was, we were able to, because the quote came in so low and below where we had bonded, the additional $50,000? $40,000?
No, $52,000.
$52,000 for the Leonard Hospital will actually allow us to pay the change order out and be completely done with them. They are a challenging company. We will never work with them again. We will never refer them to anybody again. And God help that we ever have them back in our meets and bounds for any other work that happens with any other party. They are horrible to deal with. They tried to sue us multiple times during the process. And recently, while they weren't even in the building, tried to sue us. So we will be glad to have them paid and gone and moving on.
Just to add that for clarity's sake, our engineer CHA went in there.
Talk this way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Our engineer CHA went in there and performed a survey, an actual survey, and the change order. Most of the payment is based on square footage of asbestos-covered material, and though they requested an enormous amount of square footage, 3 times what we ended up agreeing to, we paid the change order based solely on our engineer's report of how much additional square footage there was that had been missed in or that they could verify and that had been missed in the initial survey on which the bid was based. So it was the change order is legitimate, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's legitimate, but it is certainly something that they came at it the wrong way.
They tried to get a lot more than was
right, and they tried to snooker us essentially by taking out the environmentals first without notifying us of any change, and therefore wanted us to pay for something we couldn't see anymore.
And we didn't pay for that.
And we did not pay for that, so the change order reflects that adjustment.
Wow.
Yeah, oh no, this process it is the gift that keeps on giving. I cannot wait for that thing to be down, and honestly, it's, we'll leave it green grass for a little while. But we'll let Chris do his work and kind of do a good planning session and move on, and hopefully there'll be good karma. We got to burn a lot of sage up there and kind of get some good karma back up there and make it go forward in a positive direction.
Absolutely.
Council President.
Yes. Yeah, I think Councilmember Cummings, do you have any additional? Councilmember Gully?
Monica, when we do these RFPs and we bring these companies in, do we do any referencing to their past jobs to find out what it's like to be in a business relationship with these people before we award it? Because I know in my past, you
lowest bid.
get into an agreement with other people and you find out the worst of them if you don't check on them first. But if they do it to you, they've done it to somebody else. Do we do anything like that when we come to these deals?
So unfortunately, we are bound by lowest bid process. You have to remember this was the second bidder. The first bidder we awarded to, and then they turned the job down. So this was actually the second bidder. So we are bound by the lowest bid process. The only way that you can maybe get out of that process is by not awarding the contract and or disqualifying them for not including certain things or items on their bid.
There's no reference process allowed for in a bid. You have that in an RFP, but this was a construction bid, so there was no ability to do anything of that nature.
Nope.
And we didn't know anything bad about them. I mean,
no,
they present very well.
You got to watch the budget hearings for the other cities they've worked with.
Councilmember Cummings.
Excuse me, Councilman Cummings.
Gully has the floor.
The reality is that I understand that everybody seems nice on the cover. When they want you to cut them a check, they're always pleasant. They always give you effective information. But in the business world, I do a lot of referencing on the companies that we deal with before we bring them into somebody else's company to do a project, because I want to know what their habits are after the sale, after they've got the check and they've got to go ahead. It's a shame that there's no way to do that here, because we could save ourselves a lot of aggravation if we were able to do that.
Okay, Councilmember Cummings. All set? Okay. Further discussion, Rick, did you want to add anything else other than they're not on our preferred list?
No, I think we said everything. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion?
Council President?
Councilmember Gully.
I know we're talking about the add-on for the asbestos removal, but how are we coming with the demolition, and do they have a date projection for when they're going to be finished and out of there?
Mayor, did you get an update? I'm sorry, when you were up there the other day, did you get an update on date?
You know, they were well along in the demolition, and I think they said in a sort of offhanded way, so I wouldn't hold them to this necessarily, but that they hope to be out of there by the end of the month.
All right, great, thank you.
Steve, did you want to add anything? Steve Strickman.
No, I didn't.
Thank you. Okay, further discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, ordinance 77 carries 7-0. Ordinance 78, ordinance transferring funds within the 2020 water fund budget. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, ordinance 78 carries 7-0. Ordinance 79, ordinance transferring funds within the 2020 sewer fund budget. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 79 carries 7-0. Ordinance 80, ordinance amending the 2020 general fund budget. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, do I have a motion? Oh, I do apologize. We have to amend this ordinance. It is not the 2020 general fund budget. Andy notified me earlier this evening. It's the special grants fund budget, correct, Andy? Not the general fund budget.
That's correct.
Okay, so Mara, I am going to amend the ordinance title to state ordinance amending the 2020 special grants fund budget. And I don't see anywhere else. I will have to amend that, correct, Andy? Just there.
Just there.
Very good. So I am putting a motion on the floor to amend. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. I
Second?
just wanted, Council President, I'll just to note, it does say net impact on general fund at the end of Schedule A. I don't know if that has to change also or not.
That does. I apologize.
Jeez.
I see set forth in Schedule A. Okay, very good. So yes, we will have to amend that portion also. So we will amend both spots. I will make that motion, and Councilmember Zaluski, would you like to second?
Yes, I'm seconding both minor modifications, yes.
Very good. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, ordinance 80 carries 7-0. Ordinance 81, ordinance amended.
was that the amendment?
Sorry,
or the
that
whole-
was the vote on the amendment.
Amended on the amended resolution. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Thank you, everyone. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Discussion on the amended resolution.
Council President?
Yes, Councilmember Cummings.
Is this still round one? I know she was talking about round two potentially coming in.
Yes, this is round one. This is the initial applications, the ones that, and I think you saw earlier, there was, I know Council President got it, but then we also did a release this afternoon of the initial companies and businesses and organizations that were funded. There still are a few out there that still have some questions surrounding them. Unfortunately, we weren't able to fund all of them just due to the HUD regulations and the things that they asked for. Some things not at all, some things in pieces and parts. But there is residual funding left, and once we get a good understanding and all the notifications out, then we'll probably look to continue that process and then look to a potential second round that she's saying is coming. You know, hopefully it'll be a good, nice winter project.
Yep.
So,
And Councilmember Cummings still has the floor, and then Councilmember Ash McPherson. Councilmember Cummings.
Yeah, I wanted to drill down briefly into the rapid rehousing in particular. We were having some discussions about the looming for eviction crises as that gets lifted, if it gets lifted. What sort of work can we do to help folks who are facing potential evictions when that gets lifted to get access to these rapid rehousing funds?
So the way that we've done the first round of continuum care funding, that specific ESG funding, we've worked through the continuum of care, which includes Unity House, Joseph Shelter, the YWCA, Hope, St. Paul's, the one that's in
down in
Rensselaer. Yeah, the one that's in Rensselaer, and through all of our various agencies and partners that we work with on a continual basis. So the continuum of care takes the funding, they look at the services that are needed, and then they look to kind of sort that out. I did talk to Carolyn a little bit the other day in regards to once the next round of funding comes out. So they've already distributed and taken a look at this funding that's already in this Schedule A. There is notice of a second round of funding for them. We are going to look at that to make sure that what was funded the first round actually meets the needs of the community for the second round, because like you said, there could be a change. Again, it's all going to be dictated by HUD guidelines and what we're able to fund and what we're able to do. So we'll take a look at that, because I think it's important to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community, but also that we're distributing as much funds as possible to the residents. And I don't mean to sound wrong on this. rather than funding an organization, I would really like to make sure that we're funding the residents as well, as equally or as much or more. Does that make sense? I don't mean to make that sound bad, but.
Is this administration line in here? Does that go to administration of the nonprofits or our administration of the program?
That's our administration. So that's Carolyn and, myself and Dylan and Andy and everybody who worked on this funding stream is paid for out of this. And it also took into consideration some of our COVID equipment and stuff as well. So some of our mask purchases, thermometers, all of that is funded through there.
There's a budget transfer in here regarding that also.
Correct.
Councilmember Cummings?
Yeah, that's it on this. We'll talk more about foreclosure or eviction prevention in the future.
Okay, Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a breakdown of who's getting what?
Yeah, we actually put a press release out. Council President, I know you received it earlier. We don't necessarily put the dollar amounts. We put who was awarded because it's a reimbursement program. So they say I was XYZ company and I applied for $10,000 to cover my expenses for ABCD. A qualified, B does not. I don't have a receipt for C, and D is questionable. Only until they submit the stuff, it's approved, will they get the reimbursement. So that's when we'll actually get a full dollar amount. So what we did was we put notice out as to who was funded to date. That doesn't mean that we've closed the funding or that we've not approved the others. It's just those are the people who we've actually sent emails out to saying you're approved, this is the next step, and we wish you well.
So shouldn't we have a list with this saying who got what?
No, because this is a Schedule A. This is strictly a budgetary function. It is not a part of the actual grant program. This is just establishing the account. It's a financial transaction for Andy.
If I could jump in now, Carolyn did at 8:15 this morning email all of us the list. So I take it that list pertains to this, correct?
That's what you asked for, yes.
Very good.
That was your request.
Yep.
Great.
Councilmember Ash McPherson. All set?
Yeah, all set. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. I just want to say, I know quite a few businesses who, were really hit hard and continue to really go paycheck to paycheck and have taken out loans, et cetera. And a lot of these folks are small businesses, and the COVID economic shutdown has really, really hurt them. And certainly this will help them, hopefully help keep them alive. And on the youth services, I was really pleased to see Team Hero and, some new folks receive some money. So I can only imagine 39 folks, recipients. So I can only imagine the work put into this. So thank you to Carolyn and her folks. Further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, I apologize. Okay, ordinance, bear with me. Okay, I lost my spot. Ordinance 81, thank you, passes 7-0. All right, before we go to ordinance 82, we have to hit resolution 99.
I think that was ordinance
80.
Yeah, I thought you were looking for the next ordinance, so I said 80.
Oh, no. I apologize. My computer just shut off. So thank you. Ordinance 80. Ordinance 80 carries 7-0. We are on to ordinance 81. Ordinance 81, ordinance amending the 2020 general fund budget. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, ordinance. ordinance 81 carries 7-0. Before we go to ordinance 82, folks, we have to hit two resolutions, resolution 99 and resolution 102. We'll hit resolution 99 first. That's the Marcaselli program, which is tied to the South Troy Industrial Roadway. So I'll let everyone get to it. Resolution 99, resolution authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance, 100% of the federal aid and state Marcaselli program aid eligible costs of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. On the discussion, why don't we take 99, 102, and ordinance 82 and talk about it as a whole? Andy, do you want to take it away and then we'll take it from there?
So I'll let Steve Streichman talk about so 99 is the document between the city and DOT to increase the project budget. My understanding is for phase 2 of the roadway for right-of-way acquisition.
Okay.
Is that, Steve?
Yeah, that's for right-of-way acquisition. We are in negotiations with the owners right now. So there are four properties or 5 properties there, including the city on the Skolite property. So this is just, we've had 2 appraisals done on each property, and this is the estimate based on that. So again, it's been approved by the state, and we're looking to be able to bond or funding available so that we can do the purchases or write the checks with the offers when they go out.
So I guess on that, another 1.2 this evening, and I know obviously, we bonded prior to that. Out of the 7.3, we're reimbursed about 80% of that. Am I correct, or is it a little more?
Correct. So for phase 2 of the project, as these supplemental agreements come before the council, we are also bringing the bond resolution with it to mirror, as DOT and the city agree to increase the project budget, because if I can back up for a second, DOT amends the project budgets through the phases of the project. So our funding source, which is 20% city funded, 80% grant funded, is also being mirrored in that fashion. So we're not doing one lump sum bond resolution at the inception of the project. We're doing it in increments as these agreements are brought forward between the city and DOT.
And this part is the right-of-way cost, correct?
Correct. So there is no bond authorization, nor is there an agreement between the city and DOT for the construction phase. So that would be the next instance to be brought forward. It would be down the road, a supplemental agreement between the city and DOT for construction, and coupled with that, a bond resolution for those costs as well, and a budget amendment as brought forward tonight in resolutions 99, 102, and ordinance 82.
Well, obviously we're all super psyched about the South Troy Roadway, and Mayor, I've been following many of your videos, and I was down there about a week and a half ago. It's certainly coming along nicely. And Steve, I guess just in terms of timetable, what do you foresee over the next 6 months?
Well, a lot of it depends on the completion of the acquisition. So we're hoping that will be completed by about February, and then we can go out to bid on certain components. Part of this involves the deconstruction of part of the building down there, part of the Bruno building, which is why this number is so high. And hopefully we anticipate being able to do some of the project next year, but I don't think the full road construction would occur until 2022. But the phase one, was once everything was out of the way, that was a real quick construction. It's it's on schedule. It's actually ahead of schedule. Should be open fairly soon. So phase two, I think, will be a 2021, 2022 project. Might stretch into 2023.
Okay.
No, depending on the acquisition. We think, again, it was delayed on the first phase. So I don't anticipate any problems, but there's always some negotiations. There's always some pushback and additional negotiations that need to occur. So
is that also part of the county acquisition or no?
No, the county acquisition was for phase one. That's all complete. Okay. This is Bruno, Slag, Skolite, KC Refrigeration.
Okay. All right. I figured some other folks had questions. Councilmember Cummings.
As you negotiate the purchase prices there, I guess DOT pays for 80% of that. Do they participate in those negotiations? How does that work in terms of how we set that price?
No, DOT does not participate in the negotiation. That's done by RK Height, a subcontractor to Creighton Manning, who does the negotiations. They specialize in this type of procedure. And so, like I said before, they've gotten 2 estimates on each property. They have their engineers inside the buildings looking at what needs to be done to modify specifically the Bruno building. So we have, we have estimates. We have the backup for that, and then that's the offer that we make.
They have solar on that section of the building, of the Bruno building too, right? So I assume they'll go all the way to the roof.
I'm sorry. Could you say it again?
I believe their solar array extends out to that portion of the building too. So I'm sure there's all sorts of work that needs to be done on how that building gets shortened. But
yes,
and that will be good. Let's see. Well, yeah.
I was going to say, it's true the solar array needs to be removed, but I don't believe that's hooked up. A good chunk of that is not even hooked up. But
really? Okay. Maybe we can put it on our DPW building. Anyway, let's see. So at this point, there's no discussions of eminent domain. It's a cordial negotiation. No need for that. Oh, you're on mute.
Steve, you're on mute. You're still on mute.
I'm hitting the wrong button. I turned my camera on, turn the mute off. Okay.
Good to see you.
Yeah, the eminent, this is a friendly negotiation right now, so the offers will be made. We have done everything in compliance with eminent domain procedure law in case it needs to go that route, and we're hoping it doesn't. But even if it does, there's a set time period of that should hopefully take about 90 days.
Okay.
And I take it the Beacon Estuary project is long gone, right, Mayor?
Toast.
Steve? Hey, it really was a great idea. It really was.
It was.
Unfortunately. Okay. Further questions, discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Resolution 99 carries. We are now going to jump to Resolution 102. This is the bond resolution of the City Attorney of New York, authorizing the issuance of $1,210,416 of additional serial bonds to finance the cost of the construction of the South Troy Industrial Roadway. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember McDermott. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, resolution 102 carries 7-0. We're going to jump back now then to ordinance 82, setting up the capital projects fund budget line, ordinance amending the capital projects fund budget. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Ordinance 82 carries 7-0. Ordinance 83, ordinance declaring certain city-owned personal property as surplus and directing the comptroller to dispose of the surplus property. Do I have Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. Discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Sorry, I was trying to get off mute real quick.
Oh, discussion. I apologize. Ordinance 83, Councilmember Cummings on the discussion.
Just want to check on the restroom trailer at Wells Cargo. I believe we rent one for the marina. I assume this one is not operational.
It's my understanding, this was reviewed by employees for the police department and DPW, and it's everything that they feel the city needs to sell and dispose of. So I would presume that as well.
Okay.
Councilmember Cummings?
Could someone? I guess even if it's a restaurant, we need showers for the marina anyway. So I assume that is not viable either way. So yeah, I guess we can move forward.
You're okay?
We already have the restrooms and the showers for the marina.
Yeah, but we rent those at significant
No, we
expense.
bought them.
Oh, we did. That's
Yes.
good news.
Yes.
Never mind. Onward.
Okay, further discussion, ordinance 83. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0, ordinance 83. Ordinance 84, ordinance approving the use of the remaining neighborhood improvement program funds to improve the 6th Avenue Park on Old 6th Avenue. Council President Mantello, do I have a motion? And then we'll discuss. Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. You know, as all of us know, we had a resolution in front of us for Aishan's Place to locate the sign somewhere on Old 6th. I think a good spot would be the park, but obviously it's important to upgrade that area simultaneously while we decide where to put Aishan's sign. So many of us have talked to residents, we've talked to other folks regarding the area, and a lot of folks would love to see the park upgraded, as we all would. I thought it'd be a great idea to utilize the remaining dollars. It's about $2,500 for that park, stating that my proposal here was just to dedicate the monies toward the park, and at the same time, Councilmember Cummings would have a neighborhood meeting. I'm hoping that you plan to still have that, and we could talk to the neighborhood about, you know, some of the desires, proposals, recommendations that they've been looking at down there. Stating all of that, after I proposed this resolution, I initially was told that there were no monies in our budget for 6th Ave Park. But since then, the deputy mayor has stated that there is some monies for 6th Ave Park in the TRF, which is the Troy Redevelopment Foundation money. So, you know, I guess a couple things. Monica, do you know how much money out of the TRF you were looking to appropriate toward the 6th Ave Park? And obviously, you know, $2,500 wouldn't get us a ton, but at the same time, the park is not in extreme bad condition. I know they're looking at a merry-go-round type of equipment, maybe a handicap swing and some TLC and some landscaping, but stating that I thought that we could have a meeting with the administration to talk about that and obviously have a neighborhood meeting. So take it away, Monica. What do you think?
So the Troy Redevelopment Foundation funding, it was a request when we were looking at doing small improvements to the pocket parks. I put a request in for the 10th Street Park and for Old 6th Avenue Park. It was initially a $75,000 request for the 2 parks. We did do engineering for the 10th Street Park to replace that wall. Aaron is finalizing that and getting bidding on the park wall for the 10th Street Park, and then I will know what the remaining funds are available. We did put a request into an alternate funding source to help offset the cost for the 10th Street wall. That's the one that's beside the basketball court that everybody runs into, and it's like a drainage nightmare in there. That is a prime example of not the best use of land when you rip out a building and just put a park in. You got to do some improvements first. But anyway, it's a great park. It's a neighborhood park, and they all love it dearly. So we're trying to make it better. So that being said, hopefully we'll get we'll get notice of additional funding for the 10th Street Park, and that will actually hopefully give us some more funds. I thought to evenly split it previously so that we could get a good play set in the old 6th Avenue Park. That is still my wish. Probably even, I'd like to look at some of the fencing a little bit, definitely some of the play structures and the landscaping in there to redo all of that. So that park, I will remind the City Council, the park is actually owned by DOT. That land is DOT owned. So we're to maintain it, similar to like the lands under the bridge. But just a reminder that it is not a park that we own, but we manage and maintain it as per the DOT agreement from a gazillion decades ago.
Right.
I do know that Aaron is looking at some of the traffic calming measures that we had talked about earlier. He is looking into those things as well, whether it's restriping, maybe it's a raised walkway to get to the park, so that way it kind of creates a speed control, but also provides some pedestrian safety to be able to cross to get to the park. So he is looking at those pieces as well as we continue that. That could also be some of the additional funding that the NIP program provides. That could also offset some of those costs too. We could do some creative crosswalk art with Ashawn. Just kidding.
That would be very, very nice. And, you know, I would like, just to make it really clear, I don't want us, you know, waiting a year to put the sign up wherever we decide with the neighborhood to put it up. I mean, I think the park makes good sense. You know, but like you said, Monica, I mean, I'm totally thrilled to see that additional monies will go toward that.
So can I clarify something? Are you looking to put the NIP money towards the park, or are you putting the $2,500 to a sign?
No, towards the park. I thought that the sign we could do similar as the Farley sign and as Manupella sign. That was all done in-house.
So I thought we weren't naming the street.
We aren't. I'm saying the sign would be at the park, not the street.
Okay. Sure. I mean, if you're looking for just a street sign size thing, that was like $300. If you're looking for it to be something bigger, like, you know, Chamberlain Park kind of sign, That's a little bit more money. I guess I don't know what you're looking for, so maybe if you can clarify what you're looking for and what your design is, we can kind of go from there.
Well, what I'd like to do is do that with the neighborhood. I mean, I think, you know, involving the neighborhood in the at least design of the sign would be appropriate.
That's fine. Just let us know when you're ready.
And
Council President.
Councilmember Gully.
Hey, I was down at that park, and you know, my thoughts would be that one, the basketball court should have a resurfacing on it, you know, maybe another inch added to it, because there's a lot of warping in there from the water that went underneath it, and the kids use that court consistently. So I think that might be a good idea to look at. And what I thought, I know that the NIP committee had discussed transitioning that money to a park, using for the Alley Allies program that we'd like to develop and introduce to the public. I was doing some research and I seen these companies, and I'm just thinking maybe we have a local artist. Maybe that 2,500 could be done after we do resurface the court, which I think should be done because that is the most used piece in that park. Maybe we could do, they have some nice artists out there that do nice work on the basketball court where they actually put their artistic talents to the court and they come up with some great designs, and maybe we could do something like that if we wanted to do something to focus on the national attention that Ashan got when his life was taken away through the crime on that block. Maybe we could do something good that way with that funding. So just a thought. I was just trying to research what it needed, but the basketball court, it definitely needs the upgrade. And Monica, thank you for addressing the funding that's going to go towards those parks. So I think that's going to make a big difference. But just a thought. I really think we have to consider refacing that court. If you go down there and walk, you'll see what I'm talking about. And maybe we could do something artistically on that court to make it last forever. You know, and we'll just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, my whole MO here is I'm not going to wait, you know, a year to get the meeting going, et cetera. And, you know, I would hope that we would move forward, getting the neighborhood meeting going, getting some thoughts from the neighborhood regarding, you know, if they want maybe a small memorial type of sign with a tree, whatever, something to that degree, but something in the park. And I like your idea, Jim, in terms of artistic. Remember the $2,500, we do have to spend it before the end of the year, otherwise it's gone. So saying that, you know, we would have to order whatever if we were to utilize it toward the 6th Ave Park.
Council President?
Yes, Councilmember Gully.
Today, the NIP subcommittee reached out to the executive director of the CRC to ask. We've sent a letter forward, and I've had a conversation to ask to not have that deadline and to extend us being able to hold on to those funds and use them towards a future project. So we would not be pressured into moving fast, but we could focus on moving properly forward. So we, you know, and we will know tomorrow after that meeting if we have opportunity to do that. But I believe that will happen.
So if I could just interject for 2 seconds, in order to do that, and I could write the ordinance for it, you're gonna have to move the funds out of the general fund and put it in the special grants fund.
Right.
So because the CRC can say that they'll carry it over. It's a budgetary issue, it's a accounting wonky budgetary issue on the city's end. So if the council would like to have it moved out, to have it transcend years, I'd be more than glad to do so.
Okay.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Councilmember Gully, Councilmember Steele, and the subcommittee, Councilmember Cummings. And all I'd like to see is a game plan where we have the neighborhood meeting, we work with Monica with the TRF funding and the NIP money. I'll work with Andy to get an ordinance rolling forward to at least get those monies put into a special grants fund. You know, honestly, this resolution was for discussion. I wanted to get something rolling regarding the monies. If we're able to roll it over, we don't need necessarily, obviously, to pass this resolution tonight, so I'd be happy to withdraw it. But I wanted to at least have some type of game plan as we move forward. The parents of Aishan, they have asked, and I feel very strongly about this, and I know all of us do. We worked hard on the initial resolution. I just don't want it to get put on the back burner because we have so many other projects moving forward. So if we could all make a pledge just to work on the neighborhood meeting, work with Monica on the plans for the park, and I'll work with Andy on the ordinance to move the monies into special grants fund, if that works for everyone. Okay, all right. I will officially then withdraw ordinance 83. Bear with me, I apologize.
I think it's 84.
It's 84. My computer goes off. I don't know why it does that. Anasha or Councilmember Cummings tried to help me, my iPad, and we can't figure it out. Needless to say, I will officially withdraw ordinance 84, but expect an ordinance for November. I'll get it on. We'll have a finance meeting prior to move those $2,500 over. Okay. And I know Councilmember Cummings, I love your adopt an alleyway. We can talk about that too. Okay.
Great.
Council President, the problem you're having is you're using an Apple product.
Thank you, Councilmember Zaluski. Well, you'll have to just buy me a different product. Stating that ordinance 84 is withdrawn. And thank you, everyone. Thank you. I'm sure that Aishan's parents are very pleased also, and the folks in that area. Ordinance 85. Before we move with ordinance 85, I am going to give a heads up to proposed property owners have decided to withdraw their proposal. So I will inform you of that. Everything kind of came late from Sharon. Council members Zaluski and I were apprised very late, stating that the first one we are going to withdraw. So I'll make a motion to withdraw tax map 90.62-3-1931, or I apologize.
No.
90.79-4-12 375 9th Street. That will be the first one that will be proposed to withdraw. And then number 2, my motion is to withdraw Tyler Street. If you go down, it's the third to last, 112.45-16-1. So we had 2 folks back out, and that's 375 9th Street and Tyler Street. I will make a motion to withdraw those 2 properties. Do I have a second?
I will second that and confirm that Sharon Martin did state that both of those applicants withdrew their applications.
Thank you very much. We have a motion by myself. We have a second by Councilmember Zaluski. Discussion on the amendment. All in favor on the amendment?
Aye.
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 Opposed? On the amended resolution, ordinance 85, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember McDermott. Discussion.
Council President?
Yes, I was going to explain, but if you'd like.
I just had a question for the deputy mayor, whether we're still recommending that we move forward with the sale of 147 Fifth Ave.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Come up with $40,000.
Yeah, maybe they'll come up with $40,000. It's a takedown.
No, that's the assessed value. Their bid is $30,000.
No, they did,
Oh, I see.
Right.
if you'd like to make another amendment, you can certainly do so. I would not stop you.
I mean,
I'm gonna be really honest with you, I doubt they'll even close, but
so that it's just gonna drag out when and if we can sell this to someone in the future, or I assume if we don't sell it, do you anticipate it would go on your list for demolition?
yes.
Oh, I apologize. Councilmember Steele, are you okay? Your Wi-Fi?
Having issues. I just, I'm here sort of.
Okay, just for the record in the public, Councilmember Steele's having Wi-Fi issues. Sorry. Councilmember Cummings, do you want to make a motion to withdraw or leave it in?
Well, I guess the core question there is, would your timeline on when you'd be able to get to a demo on it get delayed by going back and forth with them for a little while?
Yes.
Or waiting for closing?
Yes.
Then I'll go ahead and make that motion that we withdraw.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the amended ordinance. We are now, we have a motion on the table to re-amend. So we have another amendment on the table by Councilmember Cummings. Do we have a second?
Sure, I'll second that.
Okay,
Can I just clarify for a moment, just to make sure I'm crossing out the right thing here? 90.39-4-15, 147 Fifth Avenue to Green Island Group?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I was going to verify that. Okay, so we have a motion. We have a second to also withdraw 147 Fifth Ave. Discussion.
Council President,
Yes, Councilmember Gully.
although we certainly have a bitter taste in our mouth from this organization, they have bid $3,000 for a house that we would have to spend 20 or 30 to tear down. Maybe we're right to take their money and hope they do back out or don't do the work in 6 months. Then at least we're $3,000 and, well, $3,800 plus the taxes ahead of the game from where we were. And we could tear it down. I mean, we might have to tear it down later, but at least we'd be doing it with some of their money instead of all of ours. Just a thought.
Are you talking about the $3,000 for purchase? I don't think they'll actually close, is what I was thinking.
Well, right now, how long would it take to find out if they do close? How long do we give them to come to the table
30 days.
to find out?
30 days.
So would this tear down be something you're looking to do in the next 30 days? Or we have a deposit from, I know it's small, but I'm just saying, try to squeeze every penny out of them we can get back. You know, if it's a situation where we have to be cautious, but if they're going to pay us $3,000 for a property that we have to tear down, I don't know. I'd take their money and see what happens.
So the hope is that they would pay the $3,000 and actually renovate the structure. That would be the hope. Not pay $3,000 and let it sit there so that I have to wait 3.5 more years to be able to get it. So I guess that's the question. You know what I mean? If it were me, I know we had questions about that. I know Todd Dickinson has very strong feelings about this group. Something I couldn't repeat here, but they're a tough element. They're a tough element. So I would probably recommend that if you would like to put forward an amendment to strike them, I would be okay with that. I don't think, even if they closed in the next 30 days and they paid us $3,000, the challenge is whether they come back from Long Island, because they are from Long Island, and do the renovation to the building, and then what they do with the property after that point. That is the long-term question. Back when they were still viable partners, we did not see, they actually put a bid on another property on the sheet. We didn't feel that it was a good match, but we felt that this was a good way to get introduced to them, and then subsequently all this other stuff happened. That's all I can tell you. This is what the committee recommended at the time. This is a secondary challenge because of the law that was found, so I guess it's an opportunity.
That was, my question, that this all came subsequent to the committee, to the initial finance. I mean, this information obviously about this company came subsequent. So are you saying like all along during the demolition, they were okay until they came with the change order?
So they were okay. We knew about the change order, but we had like our conversations with them early on, and this was before Rick was here, Jim was with us. They were meetings across the table, but they were conducive, and they were, we were getting to a point, and that's where we, because we had met a couple times in regards to getting to the point of bringing our engineers in to research, to redo the survey and all that kind of stuff. So those early conversations were really amicable. It wasn't until these last several months where we got into a lot of discord with them, and that was definitely, this has been probably 3 months ago when we did these, 2 months ago at least, we did this committee.
Yeah, about 2 months ago.
Rick. Yeah,
Rick.
I wasn't involved in the initial engagement with this corporation, but I remember that there was a great deal of urgency to get the hospital down, and the only way you could do it was by abating the asbestos first. So, that was a consideration. And secondly, their failures have been incremental. There were some early warning signs. Todd saw things and stuff like that, but you never know. You think you're going to work through it. You think they're going to get better, and it's just that they've proven us wrong in our hopes, and all their failures have cascaded as opposed to getting better.
Right.
So, no one's going to take it amiss if you strike this piece of property, and we're probably going to be in litigation with them anyways, and if they want to fight about that, we can fight about that too.
Council President?
Yes, Councilmember.
I was going to ask about that.
I certainly understand how everybody feels. For me, I try never to let my emotions get in the way of my process. But my thought is, don't we have a strong enough reverter on these properties now that we will not have to wait 3 years, that within 6 months they have to have activity or apply for a extension, and within 12 months, can we take the thing back? These are just questions.
So there is a reverter on all the properties. It's not as strong as I think you all think it is. I do know that it is a court process in order to do that, so it costs money to do it. We don't just snap our fingers and the reverter takes place. So it's a court process. It can be a lengthy process. It can be contested. Just everything in a court appeal. That's why it's really never been done. The only time I think it's ever been done in the city is an actual reversal where we didn't want the property and the guy made the court give it back to us. And it was a reversed one. And that's the one that we have since taken down on 4th Street behind the taxi stand. Jim, I think that it's one of those things that, if I was 6 months ago or 8 months ago in the process, I would give you a hearty, let's give it a try. Right now, I don't see it being where you think it's going to be in 6 months.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Gully, and good discussion. Listen, initially when Councilmember Cummings mentioned it, I was kind of like, not really in favor of pulling it. I am now after hearing their track record, and hopefully we can find another bidder once it goes back out. So needless to say, on the discussion, did anyone else have concerns, questions on the withdrawal of this piece of property? And we have a motion on the floor. So without further discussion, everybody okay? On the amendment by Councilmember Cummings, I'm going to take a quick slow roll just for Mara's purposes. Councilmember Gully.
Yes.
Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Yes.
Councilmember Steele.
Aye.
Councilmember Cummings.
Yes.
Councilmember Zaluski.
Aye.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Council President Mantello, aye. All in favor, yes. So we have 7 in favor of the motion to amend in Mara, that is 147 Fifth Ave. Now on the amended ordinance, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second, let's go.
Second, Councilmember Gully. Discussion. I just want to thank Rick. If folks read the memo that is attached to these properties, we have learned that under the state law, 3/4 vote is required for real property sales. And coincidentally, over many years, the real property sales have gone by a 3/4 vote. So needless to say, I want to thank Rick, and we'll move forward. Further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. Ordinance 85 carries 6-1. Ordinance 86. Ordinance approving the use of the, no, forget that, I apologize. Ordinance 85 carries 6-1, Resolution 99, we already did. Resolution 100, resolution of the Troy City Council appointing Andrew Cooper to the Troy Community Land Bank Board of Directors. Council President Mantello, Council Member Steele. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Council Member Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Steele. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution 100 carries 7-0. Resolution 103. Oh boy. This will take about 45 minutes now. Resolution 103, resolution confirming the appointment of Andrew M. Petrowski as Comptroller of the City of Troy. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Council Member Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Council Member Ash McPherson. Andy, welcome aboard. I just want to open up this hearing/resolution. We're very familiar with you, and you have done an incredible job since, God rest his soul, Joe Mazzarello passed away, and you've really taken the reins and you've done a wonderful job. And Andy, you know, how do you see the position? We know your background, we have your resume. Without talking about your resume, let's talk about, you know, the vision that you see for the office. Joe was amazing. I had the opportunity to work with Joe during my 6 years on the council when I was in my 20s. And, you know, but Joe had everything up here. And Andy came in, and Andy, you know, obviously really took us more into at least the 1990s, 2000s. But saying that, Andy, you've done a great job. And where do you see not only the position, but the office going?
Thank you. Joe was an amazing man. Not very often does a time go by where we don't talk about him or think about him. I think we're at an interesting point with the MAC debt coming to an end. It certainly brings a lot of possibilities from a financial perspective for the city. As it ends, department-wise, you know, the number one thing for me at this point is to get updated technology. At some point in the near future, we work off of 2 accounting systems currently. Payroll is still on paper. Those are areas that I certainly want to improve, and just to continue the work that we have been doing since Joe was here, and I started with Joe in 2013, and since replacing Joe in 2016. It just continued the reporting accuracy and timeliness that we have been able to achieve.
Thank you, Andy. Did any council members have questions, discussion I'll open it up.
Council President,
Yes, Councilmember Gully.
I'd just like to say that Andy has made our job so much easier. And I'm sure he's done that for the administration all along. Andy, I'm glad you're part of the team, and I'm glad you're as young as you are, because we'll have numbers going straight for a lot of years.
Thank you, Jim.
Council President,
Yes, Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Andy, I've worked with you for several years. You've always been professional. You've always been bipartisan, and you've always been approachable, and you've handled that office in an excellent manner, and I foresee you continuing doing it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Council President,
Councilmember Zaluski.
ditto. We can sing your praises all night. We love you, Andy, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, further discussion? Andy, you know, the hearing, I really thought that we were going to maybe have a hearing similar to this past week, but I'm happy to see that everyone's pleased with you. Saying that seriously, Andy, you've been excellent. Anything we ask for, you find it, and we appreciate all your due diligence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, in terms of resolution 103, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, Andy.
Yay.
Okay. Resolution 104, resolution appointing Paul J. Santandrea as Commissioner of Deeds for the City of Troy. Normally, we just say resolution appointing Commissioner of Deeds, but that's okay. Council President Mantello, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, resolution 105, resolution authorizing the city of Troy to accept a grant of $225,000 from the Local Initiative Support Corporation for the Zombie and Vacant Properties Remediation Prevention Initiative, Round 2. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Steve Strikeman did a memo on this. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but Steve, did you want to add anything else?
Not really. I just think it's been a very successful program. There are about 63 zombie properties documented. We have gotten compliance on some without legal action. I think this program really sends a great message to the mortgage holders that we mean business, and we've had some great settlements, and we anticipate another few really big settlements coming up in the future. I'd also like to thank, we have a zombie task force with a number of neighborhood, a lot of neighborhood participation, and they help us identify additional properties that we need to look at that may be investigated for zombie property status. And they've been really great in coming, especially we've had some court dates, and they've written letters. They've come actually to court and supported us, which was really why we got one of the big settlements that we did get. So basically this is overdue. I should have been back to you a few months ago to get this grant accepted, but at this point now, just want to get the grant accepted and keep moving forward with the positive progress we're making. And Eric Ferraro really does a phenomenal job. He really runs the program, and he's the guy who should get the credit for all the work he's done on this.
Absolutely. I was going to mention him. Anytime I contact him, he's there in a heartbeat. So you have a good team, and Mary Nagy and the whole team are solid. Thank you. Further discussion?
President?
Yes, Councilmember Cummings.
I noticed in the letter funding for the building blocks software is in there. Is that already in use? How is that being used?
No, it's not in use yet.
when-
It's not in use yet. So it'll be purchased
That'll be
probably
new.
beginning of December. But we've had
Okay.
presentations, Eric Ferrero, Jim Lance as well, and Jim really sees the benefits of this program. So not yet, but we're looking forward to getting it.
Are you looking, I know we talked last week or a couple days ago about the new position in your office. Could be good to, if they can get on in time to get trained on that too. I assume that they, well, obviously Chris was a big part of pushing for this in the first place. And I assume your office will use this data for all sorts of purposes in the future.
Yes, and I pray we have the software before we hire the position, because the position is going to be in next year. But certainly they will be brought up to speed on how it works.
Okay, good.
Getting it and learning it.
Very good.
Okay, further discussion? Questions? All right, all in favor of resolution 105?
Aye.
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 Opposed? And just for the public's knowledge, we'll be going into a special meeting after the next resolution to pass this. Resolution 106, a resolution to honor James J. Farley Jr. and to designate East Park Place between 112th and 113th Streets as James Farley Place. Councilmember Gully, Council President Mantello, and Councilmember Ash McPherson. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Well, can someone else, since you're one of the.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
It's okay.
sorry. I
I mean,
forgot.
it's totally legal, but if somebody else wants to.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilmember McDermott. Discussion, Councilmember Gully.
Council President, let me hit the button so I don't have to hold on to this thing. All right, great. So I'd like to just give you guys a little timeline how this occurred. Back in August, Tony Buchanan, the new owner of Jimmy's Pizza, who was a 20-plus year employee of Jim Farley, Jimmy, came to me and asked me if there was a way we could honor the years of dedication that James Farley, Jimmy, had given our communities, not only Lansingburg, but all over the city. I'll just tell you just a story from my past. We all played in the over 30 league, and Jimmy sponsored softball for men, softball for women, little league, independent league, softball at 106. He donated to all the events around the city, not only just food, but also money. And if people from the neighborhood came in and they were hungry, he took care of them. He just did a lot of great things. Along with this, he played on a softball team. So 3 nights a week while he was cooking at the restaurant, he would run over for an hour, play a game, and then run back and cook again. And then he would come back out and bring pizzas for the people at the softball field. So Jim Farley had a great heart and a big heart, and he used it consistently within our neighborhoods. I applaud Tony Buchanan for coming to me and talking to me about this. And what I was amazed at is that the average length, and this is a pizzeria, you have to understand, pizzerias are transitional places for people to work. It's where they start as delivery people, you know, short steps, short order cooks, and then right up to making pizzas. Then they move on to other jobs. The average length of employee with Jimmy has been over 10 years with each of his, and there's a lot more, but I just want to give the average. And I think that's a true testament to the way he treated people and the way he used his leadership to help build people up, that they just wanted to be around him. So I was honored to bring this to you guys, and hopefully you can see the value in it. I know we've had a lot of call for naming streets, and I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think that the more that our youth today can look up and go, hey, why is that sign there? And their parents can explain the value behind it, I think it helps us to keep people thinking about doing the right things. So I would hope that you would honor Jimmy Farley and support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gully. Further discussion, questions? Councilmember McPherson.
Real quick, I've known Jimmy and his wife for over 30, if not many more years than that. And I've lived up here in Lansingburg, and he was Friday night, always fed my children when I go to my other job. I order the pizza, stop there on the way, pay, and he would deliver it. And it was a private joke that we had back and forth all the time. I got to feed the kids again, don't I? Always, Jimmy's always been there to give into any of the communities, anytime you ask him to do anything. And I just think this is a good honor. And I thank you, Tony Buchanan, and I thank you, Jim, for bringing this forward to the council. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ash McPherson. And I got to know Jimmy, my gosh, like 40 years ago, well, 38 years ago, Jim, because my very best friend at the time was dating someone that worked for Jimmy's, Joey Pernchero. And Joey Pernchero actually opened up his own little pizza shop. Jimmy's employees stuck with him, whether it be Declan, Joey, the gang, for years and years and years. And then they ended up branching off, opening their own pizza shop. So he was a mentor more than just an employer. So I want to thank Tony Buchanan, Councilmember Gully for bringing this forward, and Councilmember Ash McPherson. It's a good thing, and believe me, it brings some pride to that particular neighborhood. Further discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, resolution 106 carries 7-0. I will take a motion to adjourn, and we'll go right into the special.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we're going to go right into the special. Mara, just wait 1 second. I'll pull up the agenda for the special. All right, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No mistake.
Oh my gosh. We were under pressure. Okay, Mara, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gully,
Yes, still here.
Councilmember Ash McPherson,
I haven't left yet.
Councilmember Steele,
Still present.
Councilmember Cummings, Councilmember Zaluski,
Persisting.
Councilmember McDermott,
Here.
Council President Mantello.
I am holding it. I am here.
7 present, none absent.
All right, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of minutes carry 7-0. Presentation of the agenda. We have one resolution, which is the zombie grant funding public forum. No one is present, correct, Mara, or signed up?
That's correct.
Thank you. Local laws, none. Ordinances, none. Resolution 105.
Resolution authorizing the City of Troy to accept a grant of $225,000 from the Local Initiative Support Corporation for the Zombie and Vacant Properties Remediation and Prevention Initiative, Round 2.
Do I have a motion?
Yep, I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolution 105 passes, 7 ayes, 0 noes.
Okay, before we adjourn real quick, Councilmember Ash McPherson, we have a couple pickups tomorrow, I believe, for food distribution and Saturday. I know Mara left, but I know they're online. Just for folks out there, they're on Facebook. Please be aware there's quite a few drive-through food distribution.
I don't have anything for about tomorrow. The ones I've been in contact with are for Saturday, between 2 and 4, and I'm still waiting for the times. It's going to be New Hope on Middleburg and 6th. and Second, between 6th and 2nd.
Okay.
And 6th Ave. Middleburg and 6th, New Hope. And then the other one's gonna be Troy Central Little League on Swift and Glen. Sorry, Swift and 7.
Awesome. And
I could just add to that, the one tomorrow is 9 to 11 a.m. at the Troy YMCA.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I did just want to say for folks that need a bus to vote, there's also information on Facebook and I believe throughout social media and in the paper regarding buses for early voting. Okay.
There'll be a flyer put out tomorrow for the 2 stops up here in Lansingburg.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Mayor, did you want to add any events upcoming? I think we hit them. Do you agree?
No, yeah, I think you hit everything that I have.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, without further ado, we have a motion. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Councilmember Zaluski. Do we have a second?
Absolutely.
Councilmember Gully seconds. Discussion. All
Aye.
in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right.
Okay, just a reminder, our next meeting is on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Public safety.
Yes.
Bring your coffee, it's gonna be a long night. I suspect, based on previous years, so
Absolutely.
see everybody then.
Oh, yeah. All right.